Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Atlanta Braves. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, dedicated to advancing cancer research, treatment, and care. More science, less fear. By True Green, America's #1 professional lawn care company. Start today, live life outside. By Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. And by Investors Bank, banking in your best interest. Well, into every April, a little rain must fall, and yesterday a lot of it fell, and the Mets and the Braves got rained out. Not a bad thing for the Mets. A little extra day to get healthy, and it helps the flowers grow. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets open a rain-shortened 2-game series against the Atlanta Braves. These have not been easy times for the Mets. They just got swept by the Washington Nationals. The Mets have lost 8 of their last 9, their worst 9-game stretch in the last 3 years. But an extra day of rest after a rain out yesterday gives the Mets a little chance to get healthy, particularly their star left fielder.
You know, Gary, when I think about this ball club, it's the same as it was 2 years ago when he came over from Detroit. Really, if Cespedes is not in the lineup, it doesn't have the depth it needs to score a lot of runs. He seems to always get that big hit or get on base when you need him to. And it's going to be interesting to see, me personally, how he comes out after the hamstring pull or the hamstring shock, and see how well he can play.
And Travis d'Arnaud back in the lineup as well. He's been suffering with a bruised wrist. Meanwhile, Robert Gsellman was scheduled to start last night. The Mets had the option of skipping their #5 starter and going with Noah Syndergaard tonight, but they opted to stick with Gsellman.
Well, I think this is the smart thing. A couple of reasons. Gsellman's last start was really good after 2 so outings. He even got into the 8th inning. But even more so, you're going to have Noah pitch tomorrow, which lines up Harvey, DeGrom, and Wheeler in Washington. I think that's the best of the 2 scenarios.
Meanwhile, the Braves go with their ace tonight, Julio Teheran, and the Mets have already seen plenty of him.
Well, he is a Mets killer. You saw him on opening day. He is even better here at Citi Field. His last 43 innings pitched in this ballpark, he's allowed just 3 runs. He's one of the most underrated right-handers in all of the game, and the ace for the Atlanta Braves.
So it's Teheran for the Braves and Gsellman for the Mets. The rain has stopped, ready for baseball in New York as Lady Liberty looks on. All the action coming your way tonight on SNY. SNY is brought to you by the New York State Health Department. Smoking is an addiction. For help quitting, talk with your health care provider. By People's United Bank N.A., see what know-how can do for you. And by New York Lottery, play Champions of Cash, the new scratch-off from the New York Lottery. Get the ticket and download the New York Lottery 3D app to play on your phone. Get to Citi Field Friday, May 5th. The Mets play the Marlins at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a Noah Syndergaard t-shirt, courtesy of Delta Airlines. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. Now time for the Unlimited Baseball Break, brought to you by T-Mobile. Last night at Coors Field, Trey Turner hit for the cycle for the Nationals as they pounded out 15 runs. 8th cycle in Nationals history, or the first 8th player in history to hit for the cycle and drive in 7 runs. That's what Turner did, first since Christian Guzman. Coincidentally enough, the last Mets cycle came at Coors Field, where a lot of cycles happen.
Scott Hairston.
You got it. Robert Gsellman getting ready to throw his first pitch. That happens momentarily. He's the youngest member of the Mets' vaunted rotation. Looking for his first victory of the season. Pitched into the 8th inning his last time out against the Phillies, and on a full week of rest. Robert Gsellman takes the mound on a kind of a foggy night at Citi Field. Hyundai starting lineup for the Braves. They have been struggling even worse than the Mets. The Braves have lost 6 straight, getting swept in consecutive series by Washington and Philadelphia. But Freddie Freeman and Brandon Phillips both off to tremendous starts in their 2017 season.
Well, the Land Rover above and beyond numbers for Robert Gsellman. Talked about that last start where he pitched into the 8th. 7 strikeouts he had in that game. 6 of them were called. Gsellman did a great job of keeping the ball down in the strike zone.
Left that game with the lead. Bullpen couldn't hold it. Mets eventually won the game on a couple of Jay Bruce home runs. A no decision game for Robert, who makes his 4th start of this season. Actually faced the Braves in relief on opening day and now faces them for the second time this year, first as a starter.
Lexus Mets defense. Cespedes is back out there. Conforto in center and Granderson on right. Really the big difference in the infield is Jay Bruce playing every day at first base, and Travis d'Arnaud back behind the plate with that bruised back of his right hand.
Fifth straight start at first base for Bruce. First pitch of the night to Ender Inciarte's outside, and we're underway. Inciarte, who kills the Mets, off to a slow start. Last year had a .351 on base percentage. This year .238, and he takes a knee-high strike, 1-1.
Well, he got off to that bad start opening here in Citi Field, but talked to the Braves people, hitting the ball much better lately.
Inciarte, Phillips, and Freeman for the Braves, who are 6-12 on the year. Very odd that they're making their second trip to Citi Field on the 26th of April.
Well, that happens a lot. Anytime a team opens up a new stadium, they push that opening usually till later in the year.
Interestingly enough, the Braves got off to a brilliant start in their new home at SunTrust Park. They won their first 4 games there, but they've had trouble winning since for Brian Snitker. There's R.A. Dickey, who will pitch tomorrow against the Mets. There's ball 4 outside, so Gsellman walks the leadoff hitter. Corey Blazer calling the balls and strikes tonight. Jeff Nelson, the crew chief at first. Laz Diaz and Doug Eddings round out the umpiring crew. Gsellman had walked just 6 batters over his first 3 starts, but he walks the initial hitter tonight. And now the red-hot Brandon Phillips, who's riding a 10-game hitting streak. Phillips finally got stymied his last game here at Citi Field. He had hit in 35 straight games in Flushing before taking an 0-for in his last game here. It was the longest road hitting streak against a particular team to begin a career in Major League history. Granderson moving toward the line, right to the sidewall, that runs out of room. Strike 1 to Phillips. Mets have been getting a lot of action against those sidewalls and foul territory during this homestand. Granderson had a great sliding catch there. Michael Conforto on the other side had a couple right up against the tarp down the left field line. There isn't much room in foul territory, but they seem to be able to find the space to make plays, at least recently. Phillips, the longtime Cincinnati Red, 11 years in Cincinnati, and he takes low and away, 1-1. Just 1 home run shy of 200 for his major league career.
He would have 200 home runs when he hits his next one to go along with over 200 stolen bases. Special achievement.
Fouled off his leg. Throw in a handful of Gold Gloves and you have yourself a nice career.
Well, I've always said, and I know some folks don't appreciate him as much as others. I've always enjoyed how Brandon Phillips brings it to the ballpark. He's a little flashy, but I had no problem with that.
Freddie Freeman on deck. Here's the lifetime numbers for Brandon Phillips. Started out with the Indians, then traded to Cincinnati, and now a Brave for the first time. And the slider off the plate from Gsellman, 2-2. Mets made a player move today. There's Freddie Freeman on deck. They called Matt Reynolds up to give them a full complement of 5 on the bench. Sean Gilmartin goes back to AAA. Two coming, and Phillips takes in tight. And a full count after Gsellman walked the leadoff hitter, having trouble locating that slider. And now he's gone 3-2.
He's missed a couple with his fastball, too. So no command early here for Gsellman.
This is a huge batter early in this game with Freeman, who's just ripping the cover off the ball, standing on deck. Inciarte at first and nobody out. And Gsellman checks in on him.
Inciarte's got good speed. I would run Inciarte here. I don't always think of Phillips as a big strikeout guy. He should be able to put the ball in play if it's a strike.
Gsellman also is a ground ball pitcher, and you know he generates 55% of his batted balls on the ground. So he'd like to stay out of the double play, and he is running, and Phillips fouls it off. 93 miles an hour from Gsellman. Talking
about ground balls, did you see the game that Dallas Keuchel threw last night? A complete game, 117 pitch effort. Right so far this season, he's got 4 wins already. Almost 70% of the balls put in play are in the ground off Keuchel.
It's the 2015 version of Dallas Keuchel, not the 2016. 4-0, 1.22. Not the best in the American League, though. How about Irvin Santana with the Twins? 4-0, 0.64 after his win last night. Inciarte takes off, and Phillips hits it right through the vacated hole for a base hit. Inciarte will continue on to third, and the Braves have the table set, first and third, and nobody out.
Well, to see the pitch is supposed to be away, it's up and it just splits the middle of the plate. Nice job by Phillips. He knows that hole's going to be open. Why not take a shot at it? And he gets himself a base hit.
So Phillips now has an 11-game hitting streak, and here's Freddie Freeman, who's picked up this year right where he left off the second half of last year. Freddie hitting a .381, third in the league, second in the league in both on base and slugging. Had a streak last week where he reached base in 12 straight plate appearances, a new Atlanta record, and a chance to do some damage in the first inning, and fouls off the fastball, 0-1.
Although 7 home runs, 6 of them have been solo, so he only has 9 RBIs so far.
That's odd. That's kind of like Granderson last year.
Except,
Curtis was doing most of that out of the leadoff spot. Freeman hitting third in the order, and that's partially a consequence of Inciarte with the low on base percentage to start the year. He hasn't been on much in front of Freeman. 1-1 to Freddie, with Matt Kemp hitting cleanup, waiting on deck.
well, one of the things that Terry Collins was talking about today, there's Matt Kemp, was how when he is in trouble, Gsellman is very aggressive. Hasn't been that aggressive in this inning yet.
And Freeman takes a slider low and in. It's 2-1. Gsellman just trying to get settled in and get an out. He'd happily trade a run for 2 outs here. Phillips has been running early in the season. He's got 5 stolen bases already. Was hitting down in the order when the year began. I don't know how much they want to run him in front of Freeman.
2 ex-teammates having a chuckle. See Phillips trying to see the sign that d'Arnaud is giving.
Phillips and Bruce, longtime teammates with the Reds. And Freeman fouls it away, 2-2.
I mean, this matchup should not go well for Gsellman. It's going to be a real test because Freddie's a low ball hitter. Gsellman, his strength is low in the strike zone.
Freeman 2 for 6 in his career against Gsellman. 2-2 coming, and it's lifted foul. I mentioned the 7 home runs Freddie's hit already this year. It's the second most home runs he's ever had in any month. He had 9 August of last year when he was going through that red hot second half. Last year 34 home runs, 91 driven in. Inciarte at third. Phillips runs from first. The pitch inside. d'Arnaud's throw and an overslide, and he's out. Well, Phillips beat it easily, but kept skidding past the bag, and as Dribble Cabrera slaps on the tag, and that's the first out of the night, and a huge one for Robert Gsellman.
What was interesting is that Phillips slipped on the first base bag and came off it for a short time, and now he does it again. That slide just skipped right over the bag, wasn't able to keep contact with it, and nice job by Cabrera to stay with that tag.
So 2-6 on the caught stealing. The infield's going to stay back 3-2 and 1 out with Inciarte at third, and Freeman just got a piece of that to stay alive. Freddie Freeman, third in the National League in batting. Eric Thames, big news today, did not hit a home run in a game against the Cincinnati Reds.
Also left the game early.
But he went 1 for 3. He's hitting .370 now. OPS just under 1,400. And that just misses inside, ball 4. And so Freeman is on. So 3 batters, 2 walks and a single. The only out coming on the caught stealing. So the uneven start continues for Gsellman.
Well, this is the first pitch that they threw inside to a lefty, and it came back a bit, but not enough for Corey Blazer, the home plate umpire's liking.
So an early chance for Matt Kemp, who, when the Braves began the season here, the first 3 games of the season, just tore things up. Kemp had 6 extra base hits in that 3-game series. Only the second visiting player ever to have that many extra base hits in a 3-game series at Citi Field. Pudge Rodriguez was the other. He's been recently back off a stint on the disabled list. 3 for 17 since returning. And he takes a slider for a strike. I mean, is it just me, or is Gsellman throwing far more sliders than he is accustomed to?
He's throwing a lot of sliders. His fastball's down a couple of ticks from where it's been the first 3 starts. I don't know if that's too much time off for a sinker ball pitcher. Sometimes that can be an issue.
93.2 for the season, his average. That's poked the other way, a base hit for Kemp, and that'll bring in the game's first run. Inciarte ends the score, and Kemp just continues to hit here at Citi Field, and the Braves have a 1-0 lead. So 4 batters, none retired.
Well, you can see the 2-seam grip by Gsellman. The issue really in this first inning has been against Phillips and now Kemp, the right-handed hitters, that nothing has been inside. So anything on the outside part of the plate, even though it's not a great swing, they're able to protect.
Well, that has been the issue with Gsellman since he got here. He's been much more effective against left-hand hitters than he has been against right-hand hitters. This year, the lefty's hitting 188 and the righty's 324 against Gsellman. Freeman now at second, Kemp at first with 1 out with a run home, and now Nick Markakis.
You know, Gary, trying to explain what happens against right-handed hitters. Most pitchers, right-handed pitchers against right-handed hitter, you want to work away and then work in later in the count. He's got to be the opposite, Gsellman. He's got to work inside the righties early in the count to go away later because of that good movement inside. He's hit a couple of batters. I wonder if he's feeling as though not being as aggressive inside the righties.
Markakis lines one the other way, a base hit. Freeman to third. He's going to be waved around. The throw coming in from Cespedes on a hop. Darno makes the tag. He's out. Ron Washington, the third base coach, sending Freeman all the way. Cespedes' throw a little bit wide, but Darno able to make the tag, and now the Braves will decide whether they want to challenge.
Well, you just don't see many teams try to take advantage or go on Cespedes. Darno does a nice job of getting back. Does he get his hand in? He did. I think he's safe at the plate.
And the Braves are going to challenge.
In this angle, it'll be hard to see if he swiped him. But see, that hand went underneath, but by the time he got the glove on the midsection. Watch the glove to the midsection of Freeman. Hands on the plate, and finally he gets there.
Corey Blazer, the home plate umpire, was right on top of the play, but certainly from the views we've had, it looks as though Freeman got his hand in before the tag.
That's a hard call, because I'm sure these umpires, when they first started umpiring, that's always an out because the ball beat him by so much, but not in today's replay world.
Play under review brought to you by Mazda. Driving matters. Meanwhile, whether he's safe or out, Robert Gsellman has now faced 5 batters and not retired any of them. He's got an out on the bases. At the moment, he has a second out on the bases, but that could be taken away momentarily. Well, there you see the hand on the plate. It looked like the side of the glove hit the arm before the tag on the midsection.
I think you're right, Gary.
The question is whether that came before the hand at the plate. I don't think it did. See, the outside of the glove looked like it nicked the arm on the way by, but I think at that point Freeman's hand was already on home plate.
Well, I think from that one view, it's almost like you have daylight. You saw some daylight when his hand touched the plate, which to me signifies he would be safe.
And now the call, and he's safe, and so the Braves have a 2-0 lead. So the Braves win the challenge, give Markakis an RBI single. So 5 straight have reached base, and now 2 have scored. And on the throw to the plate, Kemp and Markakis moved up to second and third. So the Braves with 2 runs home and a chance for more, with Adonis Garcia coming up and Dan Warthen out to try and settle down his young right-hander.
Well, you're right to point that out, Gary. Outstanding base running. Markakis is one of the best anyway. and Ron Washington being overly aggressive with a team that's had some problems scoring runs.
Yeah, Braves are second to last in the National League in runs scored. And honestly, when Ron Washington sent him home, you thought it was a terrible call because Cespedes has such a great arm, but the throw was wide enough that Freeman was able to get home with the second run of the inning. Mets are going to continue to play their infield back with 2 runs already home. And now Garcia, who's hitting at 194 on the year. This is a little strange, if only because the Mets are facing Julio Teheran tonight, a guy they rarely get anything off. They're already down 2 runs and now conceding another on a ground ball.
I would have the infield in here personally, trying to get 1 out and somehow get through this inning. Garcia's the guy that will chase the ball out of the strike zone. You can get a strikeout here.
He taps one slowly. Gsellman off the mound. The runners will hold. And the throw is wide and everybody's safe. Wow. The wheels have just completely come off for Robert Gsellman. You got a slow guy, Garcia, going home to first. Gsellman had plenty of time and just made an awful throw. And now the bases are loaded.
What you want to do is take a crow hop if you can. He threw it off his back foot, and that's the reason for the errant throw. Some nerves for this 23-year-old here so far in the first. Well, Kemp did the right thing. He comes down the line as much as he can, but you have to realize that Reyes is at third base, can hold him close. He couldn't score on that. It's good base running.
So it's an error on Gsellman to load the bases. That sets up the double play with Tyler Flowers, but he lines one past Bruce and down the line, and that'll bring home 2 more. Kemp is in. Markakis right behind him. They're waving Garcia home. The relay throw will not be made. It's a 3-run double for Tyler Flowers, and the Braves have put up a 5 spot against Robert Gsellman in the top of the first inning. What a nightmare for Gsellman.
Well, first pitch fastball hitting is Flowers. And if you noticed that 3 of the hits from the right-handers against Gsellman have all gone the other way to right field. So a real definite approach here by the Braves in the first inning against Robert. Garcia stumbled going around second, but still that ball rattled around in right field and he was able to score.
That's going to get some warm-up action going here in the opening inning. So Robles just now starting to throw. The number 8 hitter Dansby Swanson takes ball 1.
Imagine if Brandon Phillips had not been thrown out in this inning. And you just mentioned that Matt Reynolds is up. Sean Gilmartin is down. Sean Gilmartin would be the perfect guy for this kind of situation.
Right. He was the long guy, and now he's not here. Dansby Swanson really struggling, hitting 139 after a terrific cameo last year. The rookie shortstop having a rough go of it. You know, Terry Collins said something yesterday during his press conference before the game was rained out. He said sometimes no matter what you do, you can't get it right. And it just seems like that was another one of those things, right, where the Mets sent down their long man, and this turns out to be the night they might need one. 2-1 now to Swanson. You try to make all the right moves, put people in the right positions, and sometimes it just all goes horribly wrong. Sunday night, grand slam in the first inning. Daniel Murphy going deep against Zach Wheeler put the Mets in an early hole. Tonight 5 runs home and the inning not done yet. Long hop for Reyes to handle. And the low throw, and Bruce digs that out. That was close to another disaster. But that's the second out of the inning as Swanson is retired.
Well, the easiest of plays, and slung over there by Reyes. Had sink on it, and Bruce has done a nice job there at first base. Remarkable job.
You know, the conventional wisdom was that the rain out favored the Mets last night because it gave them a chance to get their people a little healthier. Well, so far in this first inning, we've seen 3 bad throws. Right? Cespedes, Gsellman, and now Reyes. And you wonder whether maybe this team's a little sluggish coming off 2 straight days off. Julio Teheran, lifetime 157 hitter, but 2 for 6 so far this year. So the Braves sending their 9th man to the plate here in the top of the first. Flowers at second and 2 out. And Gsellman powers one by Teheran, 1-1.
Well, baseball offense, when you're on the bench, everyone says let's hit for a half hour. Well, the Braves are almost doing that here in the top of the first.
This is a hungry Atlanta team coming off 2 straight series sweeps against the Nats and the Phillies. 6 straight after getting back to 500 for the year. They're now 6-12, and they're off to a fast start tonight. Gsellman about to throw his 35th pitch of the inning. And d'Arnaud has to block that one. 2-2. This is the Mets' 20th game. They've now given up 21 first inning runs. So their pitching, their starting pitching, which has overall been terrific, has been very vulnerable early. That's lined sharply, but Neil Walker able to snag it. And that finally retires the side. But 9 Braves come to bat, and 5 of them score. And Mets will try and dig out of an early hole in the bottom of the first. For Robert Gsellman, take you to the Jeep Pitchcast. Take a look at how some of it happened.
You know, Gary, really no science to it. Just a lot of balls just right down the middle of the plate, almost center cut, and good hitting by the Braves to take advantage of some misses by Gsellman.
There's your Geico Mets starting lineup tonight. Michael Conforto, his 5th outing in the leadoff spot. Cespedes and d'Arnaud back in. Jose Reyes hitting 8th for the first time since his rookie year in 2003. 14 years between number 8 assignments for Reyes.
Well, you see the Toyota numbers. Julio Teheran in his last start, we talked about how he owns the Mets. Well, he doesn't own the Washington Nationals of Bryce Harper, who had 2 home runs, including a grand slam off Teheran.
Gave up 7 runs in 4 innings against the Nats in that last start a week ago tonight. Mets hoping to have something like that against Teheran, but it's been difficult, particularly lately. Teheran's last 6 starts against the Mets, he has a 0.63 ERA. Almost comical. Conforto leads off. Already has a couple of leadoff home runs, including one on Sunday night, which he hit right down the left field line, his 4th of the year. 4 home runs and just 36 at bats for Conforto to start the year. And at the moment, he is the leadoff man of choice for Terry Collins. Terry continues to insist that Jose Reyes is his best leadoff hitter if Reyes is right, but clearly Jose is something less than that right now.
Well, they're doing the same thing in Chicago with Kyle Schwarber as the leadoff guy. You know, one of their young, bright hitters leading off for the Cubbies, and the Mets have Conforto in that same position.
Those all others, mostly Reyes and Granderson. So Conforto has settled in wherever he's been in the lineup so far this year, getting an opportunity to play. And he pulls that into the shift, and Brandon Phillips has it. And that's the first out.
Defensively for the Braves, behind Tehran, Coors Light defense. Matt Kemp and Ciarte, good glove man in center field, and Markakis in right. Garcia, Swanson, and Phillips up the middle. Freddie Freeman plays a good first base as well as his hitting. And Tyler Flowers, who had the big double in the first inning behind the plate.
So one out now is Dribble Cabrera. He's got the best numbers of anybody in the lineup against Julio Tehran. Opening day here at Citi Field, Tehran matched up against Noah Syndergaard, and they each pitched scoreless ball into the 7th. Tehran 6 scoreless innings and a no decision. His 4th consecutive opening day start on a young and rebuilding Atlanta team. He's still young himself, only 26, but has established himself as the ace of this Atlanta staff.
Yeah, he doesn't blow up the radar gun, but he's a guy that can mix in a changeup, a cutter, a breaking ball, and a fastball and throw them all to spots. So is Bartolo, of course,
who is providing his mentorship now with a guy like Tehran, which is probably as helpful for Julio Tehran as it was for some of the young Met pitchers.
I wouldn't doubt by the end of the year Tehran will be using that comeback fastball on the inside corner to lefties with the tutelage of Colon.
Mets will not see Colon in this series. They will see their former mate R.A. Dickey tomorrow afternoon. Well, 3 straight years Colon outperformed expectations with the Mets.
Incredibly consistent in innings and ERA and wins.
And then there was the bat.
Yeah.
Little tapper. Tehran off the mound. And Cabrera retired, 2 out.
You know, we talked about Gsellman in the first inning when he threw that one wide. You see Tehran when he fielded that bunt? The little crow hop to make the throw. Now, 10 times easier play than Roberts' play, but still proper mechanics can take care of the throws.
So here is Yoenis Cespedes, who we last saw take a turn at bat last Thursday against the Phillies. He tweaked his hamstring and sat out the entire weekend against the Nats. There was intrigue in all 3 games as to whether he'd be able to bat. Was unavailable Friday and Saturday. Turned out to be available on Sunday and was on deck when the game ended. Never came to bat. And he pops one up on the left side. Garcia makes the call, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Julio Tehran after getting a 5 spot in his favor. 5-0 Braves after 1. Bank, banking in your best interest. Terry Collins using all the good cliches.
That's right.
Just the nature of the game. It's a long way to go. Got to have patience.
Got to keep plugging.
You're going to get beat sometime. It's one of the wonderful things about baseball is over the course of a season, the best team in the league, loses 60 games.
That's right.
And the worst team in the league wins 60 games. Ender Inciarte walked and scored against Robert Gsellman in the first, and steps out to allow the airplane to go over.
Oh, it's a Hernandez.
Nostalgia night. I mean, for younger fans, you have to understand that for most of the years the Mets played at Shea Stadium, the planes would roar overhead regularly, and hitters, some of them didn't mind it, but some of them had to step out, and it became a thing.
The only time that you would get a reprieve was if you had a mayor who liked the U.S. Open tennis, and then for those 2-3 weeks, the planes would go in a different path.
Shot toward the middle. Cabrera smothers it. Can he throw out Inciarte? Low throw handled by Bruce, and they get the out. Beautifully done by Cabrera and Bruce, and Inciarte is retired.
Well, the most difficult part of this play for Cabrera is getting to his feet so quickly. And that's what he does with both hands, doing almost like a push-up to get into a position to throw the baseball. He's got the sure hands, but that's about as quick as you can get up to make that play.
Another guy who should be benefiting from a couple of days off. He had the hamstring problem. He turned an ankle on Tuesday. So that's the first out, and now Brandon Phillips is coming out of the game. Jace Peterson is batting for Phillips. Remember, Phillips was caught stealing on that overslide when he awkwardly slid off the bag at second base, so I wonder if he tweaked something. And Peterson taking the turn at bat. Phillips stayed in the game and fielded a ground ball by Michael Conforto in the bottom of the first. And Peterson flies one toward the left field corner. Cespedes isn't going to get there, and it lands in the corner. And Peterson has himself an opposite field double. So Jace Peterson picking up where the Braves left off in the first inning.
Well, again, a fastball right in the middle of the plate. Now, all of the hits except for, well, Garcia's was an error. All the hits now have been to the opposite field. Markakis, Peterson, Phillips, Kemp.
So another runner in scoring position for Freddie Freeman, who walked and scored in the first inning. And the walk was not really an aberration. This is amazing to me. The Braves are playing their 19th game. You know how many official at bats Freddie Freeman's had with runners in scoring position? 5. That's why he has 9 RBIs with 7 home runs. Either guys aren't getting on base ahead of him, or when he comes up with a runner in scoring position, he's getting on with a walk. So he got 15 walks this year. Been a hard-pressed first couple of innings for Robert Gsellman. The off-speed pitch misses. Here's Phillips fielding that ground ball by Conforto.
It's almost like he tweaked his ankle on that slide to second base. I mean, his reaction there seems like he has a little bulky ankle.
Grounded to the right side. And Walker takes care of Freeman, 2 out as Peterson moves to third. Yeah, it didn't look as though he hurt it fielding the grounder, but it looked like something was bothering him already. But we'll find out more. So 2 out. Peterson now at third. And here's Matt Kemp, who drove in a run with an opposite field single in the first inning. Here's the stolen base. Watch his left foot come off the bag.
He just skids it across there and then bangs that heel into the ground.
Yeah, and that's the one he appeared to be flexing after the ground ball. Kemp taps one foul. And it's 0-2. 5 runs against Gsellman in the first inning. 4 were earned. One of them unearned, the result of his throwing error. And Darno blocks the breaking ball in the dirt. 1-2.
Interesting to see Kemp in the box. One of the few hitters in today's game that has a closed stance. Good block there by Darno. Catches it right in the mid.
I mean, that used to be the standard stance back in the 70s and the early 80s.
I was thinking of George Hendricks. That reminds me of the Kemp stance right now. You're right. Everyone had that closed stance to keep that front shoulder closed, and more guys now are open. They want to have put both eyes on the pitcher.
And then they can close it as they make their stride. Peterson at third and 2 out. And it's away. 2-2 to Kemp. Full week of rest for Gsellman since his last start. And he has not been sharp at all.
Yeah, there's been a lot of traffic on the bases, but working extremely slow also.
And Kemp goes down swinging to end the inning. First strikeout for Gsellman. He works around the double by Peterson. Jay Bruce leads off for the Mets in the home second when we come back. Time for tonight's Verizon trivia question. Who are the only 2 Mets who've had 200 or more hits in a single season?
I know one. There's Jace Peterson is in the game now. We talked about Brandon Phillips out.
Jay Bruce leads off for the Mets against Julio Teheran in the home second. Well, the guy who has the Mets single season hits record not only had 227 hits, he also had 21 triples that year.
That's the guy I'm thinking about. I played against him when he was with a different organization.
In the American League.
Yep.
White Sox?
No, I think he started his career with the Cardinals.
Did he?
I think he did, yeah.
But he was with the White Sox.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He was one of Ken Harrelson's favorites.
One dog. Bruce takes the changeup off the strike zone. 2-1. Those are the overall numbers for Tehran against the Mets. But look at the bottom line there. Last 6 starts, 0.63, just untouchable. Now, the Braves had a pitcher who came up a few years before Tehran, who looked like he was going to be what Tehran has become. And I'm talking about Jair Jurgen.
Yes.
What happened to him?
Well, you know what's funny is I was watching the World Baseball Classic, and he was pitching for the Netherlands, and he looked great. He was throwing the ball 93, 94 miles an hour, so I don't know what happened to him.
But a very similar type of pitcher, right?
Absolutely. Just really was traded over to Detroit, and then they just lost track of him.
So the Mets have their first base runner of the night, and now Neil Walker. Walker hit his 2nd home run of the year Sunday night. And he takes a fastball for a strike. So we were talking before about the Braves adding Bartolo Colon and thinking back on the way in which he helped to nurture some of the younger Met pitchers, as especially like Jerry's Familia,
yes,
Hansel Robles, the other Latino pitchers on the staff. So how does that work? What does Bartolo do? What insight can a veteran pitcher like that provide, particularly for a guy like Tehran, who's already established himself in the major league?
That's right. That he's an excellent pitcher already. I think what happens for you a lot of times, 2 things. One, speak the same language. That's always going to help. He's also revered by a lot of the younger Latin pitchers because, you know, he's got way over 200 wins and Cy Young and all the things that young pitchers would like for themselves. But I think where you really learn is that in between starts, when you're sitting with Bartolo Colon on the bench and you start talking about grips and how to get hitters out and what did you do against so-and-so, and he'll start to peel back the curtain and give you a little peek into how to have great success in the major leagues over an extended period of time. Tehran has showed.
That knocks down Freeman, but Tehran able to recover, and there is your 3-1-3 putout. A bullet off the bat of Neil Walker, and Freeman fortunate to get a piece of it as it ate him up. And Tehran in just the right place to be able to field it.
Well, he can't hit the ball much harder than this. Right at Freddie, and he kind of bailed out, but it blocked it with his body still. And tough luck for Neil Walker. Well, the ball never came up. He thought it was going to come up into his midsection, but it stayed down and hit his leg. Yeah, I was just saying about Tehran. He's shown already he can have success within a year, but how can he turn that into 10 to 15 years of success? That's where Bartolo would really help.
Bruce at 2nd and 1 out, and now Granderson.
Tehran is an excellent fielding pitcher. Whenever the ball's hit to the right side, even if it's hit to the second baseman, your first move as a pitcher is to favor going towards first base to help, to cover. And Tehran was in the right spot.
Change up into Granderson for a strike, 1-1. And the curveball popped up. Swanson with the angle. And that's the 2nd out, and Bruce holds at 2nd. So Granderson, who showed signs in that first game against Washington Friday night of breaking out of this early season slump. Remember, he had those 2 tying hits. 0 for 10 since.
Yeah, April has not been friendly to Granderson in a Mets uniform.
Now it's Travis d'Arnaud back in the lineup tonight. Pinch hit each of the last 4 games after he bruised his right wrist making a throw, hit it on the bat of Aaron Altair of the Phillies. And d'Arnaud has cooled down after his hot start. He's 0 for his last 10. Bruce at 2nd and 2 down. By the way, we were talking about Jair Jurgens. He is in AAA in the Dodgers organization, actually pitching very well right now at Oklahoma City. So who knows? Maybe he'll be back in the big leagues. He last pitched in the majors 3 years ago for Colorado. And Darno pops one up into shallow right. And Markakis puts it away to retire the side. Leadoff walk, but Bruce is stranded after 2 at Citi Field. Still 5-0 Atlanta. City almost can make out the top of the Empire State Building. 5-0 Braves as we go to the third, and we check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Gary, well, no doubt we are in the midst of a data revolution in baseball right now, and one of the systems that gets talked about often with the data revolution is TrackMan, but I'm not sure a lot of fans know exactly what TrackMan is or what its uses are for teams and players, namely the Mets and their players. But let's start with what the system is, and you can actually see it in every major league ballpark. It is up behind home plate, looks almost like a big screen television, and it's a radar system, a Doppler radar system that essentially tracks the baseball, all the movements. That's where you get the velocity, but spin rate and exit velocity and launch angle and all those things that we always hear about. It comes from that system in particular. And so what are the uses for it? Let's start with one of the most obvious uses, player personnel decisions, specifically with the Mets. And 2 prominent personnel decisions have been made recently as Markakis grounds this one to first base. The Ike Davis Lucas Duda decision was in large part based on the TrackMan info. The Mets decided to go with Lucas Duda because he had an exit velocity and a hard hit ball rate that was higher than Ike Davis, and we see how that's worked out for them. It's been the correct decision. But the other one, and this is a little bit lesser known, the Mets put Seth Lugo on the 40-man roster last year, again in large part because of that spin rate, something that they wouldn't have had in the past. And Lugo, if you look at his numbers, did not have otherworldly numbers in the minor leagues that would say, okay, this guy should be on the 40-man roster.
Hobbled by Cespedes, who overran that ball in left field off the bat of Adonis Garcia, and he'll wind up at second base. So that'll be an error on Cespedes.
Well, a couple of errors already for the Mets, and he tried to get around that ball and just was confused by it. Didn't know whether to backhand it or field it like that, and he did neither.
This has been a very sloppy first few innings for the Mets.
So again, guys, that off the top is the most interesting thing to me, that you're now seeing teams, specifically the Mets, utilize this technology to make big player personnel decisions.
Well, there's some of what Steve was talking about, the science of baseball, brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. More science, less fear. Lucas Duda among the top third among Major League first basemen in exit velocity, which means of the balls he puts in play, he hits it particularly hard. It doesn't give you a complete picture of a player, but it does give you a piece of the puzzle when you're trying to make decisions.
Well, I think, when you're looking at those kind of things, you would take not only exit velocity, but you'd also take contact rate within the strike zone, things like that that will help you gauge who the better players are. I think it's a wonderful tool to use to set up your roster. I really do. I don't know in a micro way how well it works, although I do know players use it a lot to check mechanics. When their ball, let's say Lugo's curveball drops in spin rate, how does he get that back? All things like that I think are just so interesting for players of this generation.
Well, chase rates and what types of pitches hitters are chasing out of the strike zone, and how they can be more disciplined, and where they make the best contact and where the best exit velocity in the strike zone is for them against particular pitchers, all those things.
If a hitter like Conforto, his launch angle was down where he's hitting a lot of balls on the ground, he might start to think about improving that.
As ball 4, and Flowers is on with a walk, so 2 men aboard for the Braves.
But Ronnie, the interesting thing, and this is to your point, it's how the players utilize the data. And I think, and again, this is somewhat of an arbitrary poll that I took, because I haven't spoken with every major league player or every player on the Mets about this. But it seems to me that anecdotally, pitchers tend to utilize this information more than hitters, who can feel at times like it can clutter their brains a little too much. Notable examples are Travis d'Arnaud and Michael Conforto, who both told me that last year at times they became too enamored with the exit velocity and felt that they at times tried to overswing, which contributed to some of their struggles.
Well, that's a great point. In our day, when I used to throw on the side, Mel Stottlemyre was catch me. Why? Not because Mel liked to catch. He would catch because he was able to tell you if your ball was moving correctly or late, if you had late and great movement. Now today, with TrackMan, you would know right off the bat.
Reyes with a double play chance, the step and fire, and it scoops by Bruce, and it goes into the crowd, and they're going to place the runners at second and third. So it's a fielder's choice, 5 unassisted, then an error on Reyes, the Mets' third error of the game, enabling the runners to advance.
Well, he had more time than he thought, so he rushed it a little bit, and you can't blame Bruce. That was an in-between hop, and a terrible hop that went all the way in the stands.
Well, this has just been a dreadful first 3 innings for the Mets defensively.
That's really a play there where, as a first baseman, you're just trying to get lucky, throwing the glove out there.
Not much that Bruce could do about that. It was just a terrible throw, and the second bad one Reyes has made. Bruce skipped one out of the dirt the first time. Here's Tehran, and he takes inside for ball 1. So 3 errors, then throwing a couple of wide throws that have not resulted in errors, and this is about as poor a defensive performance as the Mets have put on this season. They're not known as a great defensive team, but this has just been awful.
Guys, as we continue to talk about this TrackMan, though, and how in a lot of respects it's revolutionizing the game, I wanted to get Ron's particular thought on one point that Jerry Blevins actually made to me, and that was when he was coming up, guys that were throwing in the minor leagues 88, 89, 90 miles per hour, but were getting swing and misses on their fastballs. It was called the invisible fastball, he said. And scouts said, you know, these guys, it's never going to work for them at the major league level because that velocity is not going to play. Now, though, what they're seeing with this data is that those guys in particular have, you know, high-end spin rates, and that ball stays on a plane rather than dips down. And so Blevins thinks it will lead to more opportunities for guys that wouldn't have otherwise had them.
Gsellman able to work around 2 errors in that 3rd inning and keep the Braves from any further scoring. We go to the bottom of the 3rd, 5-0 Atlanta. Customizable experience with the MLB.com at Bat app. Get New York Mets home screen icons and app features, as well as game day, live game video highlights, radio broadcast, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat today. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. Mets looking for their first hit against Julio Teheran. Mets have made 3 errors in the first 3 innings. Not helping Robert Gsellman, who hasn't helped his own cause a whole lot either.
You know, Gary, you really got to battle in today's game. The facilities underneath the stadium are just so perfect that when you have these rainouts and you sit around the ballpark, sometimes you can spend 2-3 days not even going outside because you can get all your work done underneath the stadium.
But you can't field and throw underneath the stadium.
Yeah, you can. You not field, but you could throw. You definitely can throw in the pitching mounds and stuff. And you know, like I was watching some of these throws come off this grass that might be a little slick. That's something you wouldn't do.
Well, here's Reyes leading off, hitting in the 8-hole for the first time since his rookie year in 2003. And he takes a knee-high strike from Teheran. So Steve just raised the point about pitchers who pitch in the strike zone at relatively low velocity and get swings and misses. And we've talked about this a lot with Addison Reed. Do you think there's something to that pitchers can be scouted differently now because of the spin rate data that's available?
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's going to bring some of those outliers, guys who don't
hit sharply, and Freddie Freeman with another nice stop and makes the play 1 out.
You know, a guy like Noah Syndergaard, you spit him into the computer, it's gonna spit out a star, right? But a guy like Kyle Hendricks is a guy that might stand out because of his ability to not only have spin rate on the ball, but also be able to control the movement of the ball that some others can't. First time I ever heard of TrackMan is it was used by almost every PGA golfer because it's a great thing, a tool for them to use. Every PGA golfer has their own TrackMan that they set up on the range with them as they take their swings and try to figure out, you know, how high to hit the ball, how low to hit it, whether to bend it from right to left, left to right, if they're bending it too much. It really is invaluable for golfers.
And guys, there are so many applications for this. We could go down a rabbit hole and talk about this technology probably for games on end. But another interesting nugget and application is that in game, it can give the coaching staff a little bit of extra information that they may not normally have. So for instance, the Mets have realized that, okay, when our starters are tiring as the game progresses, each one of them has something unique that falls off. So for instance, maybe with one guy, they're not getting the same extension out in front, something that you couldn't really pick up with the naked eye. And the coaching staff has the ability to get this information during the game and not necessarily make a decision and say, hey, you're coming out now because you're not getting that same extension. But it's something to keep in the back of their mind if that pitcher then starts to give up a couple of hits. Maybe now is time to get the bullpen going.
Well, that's real interesting stuff, Steve. I remember at the end of my career, there was a real beginning of a TrackMan at the time, and it was on a computer, and it would track how your ball moved, how fast it was, and all that. And I was sitting with the late, great Dave Henderson, and we were looking at my particular pitches and how fast they were moving and this or that. And I go, Dave, what's this tell you about me? He goes, you're close to getting released, Ronnie. It was great, and he was right.
Probably not information you really wanted from that particular technology.
You can prepare yourself.
That's right.
Conforto pulls one foul, 2-1. Well, obviously the technology has improved by leaps and bounds since then, and you put together the TrackMan data and now the StatCast data, and there's so much real-time information about the movement of the ball, movement of players, and it is a great evaluation tool.
Yes, it is.
Without question. 3-1 now to Conforto.
And even from a hitting perspective and preparation, I mean, we talked about the spin rate and maybe certain fastballs that stay on a plane rather than dip normally. The coaching staff now has the ability to say, okay, this guy has a spin rate that will keep that ball on a plane. So maybe for him, you look to hit it at the top of the baseball rather than with someone who the ball would sink off a little bit. Maybe with that person, you're trying to hit the bottom of the baseball. Just something subtle that these players can watch and take into their at-bats.
You know, what's interesting is that when Jim Hickey, who's the pitching coach for the Tampa Bay Rays, and he teaches a lot of his young pitchers on trying to have that carry in their fastball with their ball, because just naturally gravity is going to try to pull the ball down, right? So he tries to teach them to have some carry on their fastball, because it's like what Steve is saying, an invisible, an optical illusion, because the ball, instead of sinking at the very end, carries through and stays on the same plane. And Jim Hickey picked that up from watching Roger Clemens when he was in Houston and seeing that Roger's ball had the best carry of anyone he had ever seen before.
What in the old days we used to refer to as a rising fastball.
There you go.
That does not exist. Conforto flies one out to right center, and Markakis over to get it, and that retires the side. Tehran's held the Mets without a hit through the first three. He's got a 5-0 lead as we head to the fourth. Lead hasn't been a good look for the Mets so far. A team that's lost 8 of 9. They haven't had a hit yet tonight, and the defense, well, not good.
I mean, I think easily you can say it's the sloppiest game they've played all year, coming off a big series against the Nationals in which they were swept. Sometimes you play a 6-12 team, you think you can throw your glove out there and positive things are going to happen. Not always. This Braves team much better than it was last year.
And Robert Gsellman will now start his 3rd tour through the Atlanta batting order. Ender Inciarte. And he takes a curveball outside. Inciarte walked and scored leading off the game, then was robbed of a hit on a terrific play by Cabrera going up the middle in the 2nd. The Braves scored all 5 runs in the 1st inning, 4 of them earned. And they've had runners in scoring position each of the last 2 innings as well against Gsellman, who right now is just fighting to get as deep into this game as he can. In the 1st inning, it looked like he might not last this far. That's had warm-up action going in that 1st inning. 2-1 to Inciarte, Jace Peterson on deck, and then Freddie Freeman. Gsellman threw 36 pitches in the 1st inning. By contrast, Julio Teheran has thrown 36 pitches in the first 3 innings. Rolled over to the right side. Bobbled by Walker, but he recovers to make the play. What is going on out there tonight? Not one clean play. Horizon trivia question. The only 2 Mets with 200 hits. Well, Lance Johnson is one. I guess Jose Reyes was the other.
One dog. Yeah.
Reyes had 204 hits in 08. Lance Johnson 227 in 1996. 1996 was such a strange year. The Mets were not a good team that year. But that was the year that Todd Hundley set the team home run record with 41. Lance Johnson had the 227 hits and the 21 triples. Bernard Gilkey drove in 117 runs that year, had his career year.
So for a team that's always been known for its pitching, that might have been one of the best team offensive years.
They were supposed to have Generation K, but that didn't work out so well.
Well, I really wish Paul Wilson would have had a full career. He really was a talented right-hander.
First overall pick coming out of Florida State, and he had everything.
Yes, he did.
But just never was able to stay healthy. You know, Bill Pulsifer had his moments. Jason Isringhausen certainly had his. I mean, he came up like a flash when he 9-2 in his first half season in the big leagues, and never really found any more success as a starter, but then had a great career as a reliever, mostly elsewhere.
Paul just had that body of a guy that you think is going to be around for a long time and pitch a lot of innings.
6'4", 240.
Yeah.
Great stuff. I remember one game early in Paul's career. He has a good changeup, and he strikes out Peterson. Second strikeout for Gsellman, and now has a chance for his first 1-2-3 inning.
Well, it's interesting to watch as you see the grip of that changeup. Is that really it's been his best pitch in these last couple of innings, the changeup. He's gotten Freeman out with the rollover, Inciarte to start this inning, and now the strikeout of Peterson.
So it was I think it was Paul's rookie season. Dallas Green was managing as Freeman laces one to the right for a base hit, and he's on base for the 2nd time. And I'm trying to remember the details, but I think he was up 2-1 going to the bottom of the 9th, and probably had thrown about 120 pitches, and Dallas left him in. And of course, he gives up the walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th, loses the game. And it's one of those things that would never happen in the game today.
That's
but
right.
Dallas was an old school guy and believed in pushing those starting pitchers, and in that case, probably to the detriment of that young starting pitcher. Here's Matt Kemp, who was singled to drive in a run and struck out. And Gsellman fires one inside.
When I think of Paul Wilson, I think of my good friend Tim Leary, who had kind of the same pedigree, a #1 pick, came up, started a game that was really cold in Chicago, hurt his arm, and there was a battle from there. But I always thought Tim had some of the best stuff, including White and the others.
Of course, Leary was able to salvage his career and had some good years with the Dodgers. Mets turn the 5-4 fielder's choice smoothly. No error. 5-0, middle of the 4th. Town, the Apollo. Think of all the great acts that have performed on that stage over the last 60, 70 years.
Want to stay away from the hook.
Well, there are some of the notables who have graced the stage at the Apollo. What an amazing venue. We go to the bottom of the fourth. Mets looking for their first hit against Julio Teheran, as Dribble Cabrera had a comebacker his first time up. Cespedes and Bruce to follow.
Well, that's you'll usually see numbers that are a little different, but not that big of a discrepancy between the two numbers.
I would attribute that to small sample size. And this is only his 5th start of the year. Got a feeling that 1-0 number is going to come down significantly, at least against the Mets. 4th time in 11 batters that he has fallen behind 1-0. And now 3-0 to Cabrera with Cespedes on deck. Teheran has walked one. He walked Bruce leading off in the 2nd. Left him stranded. And there's a strike, 3-1.
I remember when I first came up, it was always first pitch strikes. Got to throw a first pitch strike. I always thought that was such a negative way to think about it. When I started to try to win the race for the first 3 pitches, so after 3 pitches to be 1-2 instead of 2-1, became much easier to manage.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
So rather than, there's ball 4 to Cabrera, rather than go for winner take all, you were going for 2 out of 3.
I was going for 2 out of 3 because, you know, what happened is that, you know, you preach to first pitch strike. Well, if you don't throw a first pitch strike, certainly the at bat is not over. You're still in it. So it made it easier for me to manage to win the battle for the first 3.
And what if you got to 2 and 1?
Well, that happened a lot also, but it wasn't as negative as first pitch ball and boy, I have no chance.
Well, it's a game of firsts, you know.
Yes, it is.
First strike, first out, first run of the game. Cespedes popped up his first time up against Teheran. This is a righty who's given Cespedes fits, just 3 for 16 against Teheran. And the fastball dots the outside corner. First game in 6 days for Cespedes. And he hits one sharply. That's a base hit. The Mets' first base hit of the ball game. And the first 2 are aboard here in the bottom of the 4th.
Well, Teheran got what he wanted. He wanted something down, get a ground ball from Cespedes. But Cespedes found a hole.
A little too much exit velocity on that ground ball.
Well, it seems like all of the players on this track tonight are moving kind of in slow motion.
Well, this field took a lot of rain yesterday and more than expected today. But it usually drains so well it shouldn't really make that much of a difference. Here's Bruce, who walked his first time up. Mets trying to make a dent here in the 4th inning. Braves put 5 on the board before anybody could blink tonight. And this is the first time the Mets have had 2 men on in the same inning. And change up for a strike. We mentioned Cespedes' issues against Teheran. Bruce is just 3 for 21 against Julio Teheran, but 2 of the 3 have been home runs. Cabrera at second, Cespedes at first, and nobody out. Last time Gsellman started, Bruce hit a pair of home runs, both with men on base, that won that game for the Mets.
Sorry, Gary. Corey Blazer calling a lot of those low pitches tonight's game.
Toward the hole, and that gets through for a base hit. Cabrera will stop at third as Markakis charges it, and the Mets have the bases loaded and nobody out. So both Cespedes and Bruce hit the ball on the ground and find holes. The Mets have not had a lot of that this year.
Well, when a double play is in order, you can't play that over shift where you would have a fielder most of the time right where that ball went. But Peterson couldn't get to it.
So the Mets with a chance to get right back into this game with Neil Walker coming to the plate. Walker hit the ball about as hard as you can hit it first time up. And Freddie Freeman made a kick save, and Tehran fielded in. They got the 3-1-3 put out. Cabrera, Cespedes, and Bruce aboard. Nobody out. And Walker flies one out to right. That'll get a run home at least. Back goes Markakis. He's got room to make the catch. Cabrera tags and scores. Cespedes tags and goes to third. And the Mets get on the board on the Neil Walker sacrifice fly. It's now 5-1 Atlanta. A doubly productive out with Cespedes able to go to third.
Interesting to watch Cespedes running between second and third, running nice and free and easy.
So the Mets finally score against Tehran for the first time this year after 9 scoreless innings against the Braves ace.
Reads the ball, knows it's deep enough. And then second and third, that looks pretty free and easy.
So runners at the corners with one out for Granderson, who popped up his first time. Slider in for a strike. Well, they do overshift against Curtis, leaving that shortstop hole open. Cespedes at third and Bruce at first. And Curtis takes off the plate. 1-1.
Now you're down 4 runs, and Jay Bruce, a veteran, he knows this, but Tehran's got a balk move to first base, so you got to be careful over there. Don't fall asleep.
Not really going anywhere anyway. And Curtis lays off. 2-1. Last year, Julio Tehran was beset by a lack of run support. 30 starts, a 3.21 ERA, 7 wins. Made the All-Star team, but finished 7-10. Team that couldn't score the first half of last year, and then the second half just didn't score for him. And that misses high, another off-speed pitch, and now he's behind Granderson 3-1 with Travis d'Arnaud on deck. A lot of sliders and changeups from Tehran when he gets in trouble.
Well, also with the shift, you want to throw more soft because you want Curtis to pull the ball on the ground. That's where the defense is. That fastball away presents a problem because of that shortstop hole open.
Peterson really shortened up at second base in the middle of that shift. Now 3-1 to Granderson, and it's on the inside corner. Curtis didn't think so. Full count. So now do you think about sending Bruce? Tehran, not a big time strikeout pitcher. He only has 1 tonight.
Yeah, but you can't do it down 4 runs. Strikeout, throw him out is just too devastating here. You want a couple of shots since you're a home run hitting team. Could maybe hit one out of the ballpark.
Not going. And Granderson punches one behind second base. Swanson goes back to get it. And everybody will hold, and that's the second out. Well, the Mets have struggled to get men on base, second to last in the league in on-base percentage, so it would figure that they would not have very many at-bats with runners in scoring position. It started the night with a .288 team on base percentage, and that's just not enough to get it done. And really, what has happened this year with the Mets offense very much mirrors what happened last year. They hit a lot of home runs, but they don't get people on base very often, and so they're languishing in the bottom half of the league in runs scored. So here's d'Arnaud with first and third and 2 out. You know, it's all well enough to say we're a home run oriented team, and that's what the Mets are.
Yeah.
But you got to get people on base in front of those home runs. I mean, when Earl Weaver talked about his theory of baseball, it wasn't pitching, defense, and solo home runs. It was pitching, defense, and 3-run home runs.
That's right.
That's a high strike to d'Arnaud, 1-1. Well, the last 2 years, when the Mets have hit a home run, they've won over 63% of the time, and when they haven't, they've won 22% of the time.
Wow.
In both cases, more exaggerated than major league teams as a whole. It's a good graphic right there. Really gives you an idea just how dependent the Mets have been on the home run ball. And d'Arnaud swings through the fastball, and it's 1-2. Mets have the bases loaded and nobody out. It would be very disappointing if they only came away with one. Fernando Salas up in the bullpen. Travis Flight out to right his first time up. Hitless in his last 11 at bats now. And he flies this one out to right. Should be easy for Markakis. And he catches it in fair territory, and that retires the side. Mets settle for one on the Walker sac fly and trail 5-1 after 4. I have seen a lot of pictures from 1969. This is one that I've never seen before. You know, Cleon Jones and Jerry Koosman and Don Clendenin and Tom Seaver celebrating in the background.
Boy, you really can see how strong Cleon Jones was from that picture, right?
What a great hitter. Hit 340 that year.
Wow.
In a season that was not a great hitter's year. Finished third in the batting race that year. Nick Markakis leads off in the 5th inning. 5th inning brought to you by your local Ford dealers. The Ford Spring Sales Drive event is on. For big savings, go to buyfordnow.com. Markakis singled in a run in the 1st inning.
You would think that this would be Robert Gsellman's last inning. His place in the order comes up next inning.
And the Mets have the bullpen cranking. About to throw his 85th pitch of the night. And honestly, as the 1st inning was proceeding, you would have been happy with the thought that maybe Gsellman could get through 5.
Well, I think that's what made what Zach Wheeler on Sunday night so impressive, that he got through 7 innings despite that grand slam by Murphy in the 1st. It was a step forward even though he lost the game.
Without question. And Markakis takes a strike. Markakis had a base hit to left field. And Ron Washington, the third base coach for the Braves, very aggressively sent Freddie Freeman against the arm of Cespedes. Cespedes' throw was a little bit wide. Freeman was initially called out on a lunging tag by Travis d'Arnaud, but it was overturned on replay and the run scored. Gsellman has walked 3 tonight. He's 3-2 on Markakis leading off the inning. And again, planes flying over. It's a little murky out, so the planes fly a little lower than normal. It's like Shea Stadium redux. That's line to left center field, and Markakis has his second hit, cut off by Cespedes, and he'll hold Markakis to a single. So that's hit number 8 against Gsellman.
Well, good hitting again by this Braves team. A changeup down and away. Markakis hits it that way. Many of the hits by the Braves hitters this evening have come to the opposite field. Good job by Cespedes to cut it off.
Well, if you're going to be a left-hand batter facing a sinker baller, Keith says it all the time. Left center has got to be your goal.
Well, because that's where most of the pitches are going to be thrown by the pitcher.
Adonis Garcia reached on an error by Gsellman and scored in the first. Then he singled to left in the third. And the sinker misses. A ball and a strike. Change up by Gsellman. It's 1-2. So Gsellman's working on a full week of rest today, which means that Syndergaard will be working on a full week of rest tomorrow. Now, we've watched Gsellman struggle with his command today. Do you anticipate Syndergaard having similar issues with extra rest like that?
No, I don't think so. I think what you'll get is, you'll get the supersonic Thor tomorrow with all that rest. Going up against R.A. Dickey. Ironically, both players traded for each other some time ago. No, I think that they're two different pitchers. Gsellman's a guy that wants to be down in the strike zone, wants movement. He hasn't really had a lot of that in this game, so that extra rest might have hurt him. I don't think it'll hurt Syndergaard.
Of course, the story in the pitching matchup tomorrow, two guys who were traded for each other, Noah Syndergaard and R.A. Dickey, as Garcia takes inside. And for R.A., it'll be his first time back on the Citi Field mound since he left the Mets. He was scheduled to pitch here once before, but it didn't work out because of a rainout. And the Mets faced him in Toronto, but he has not pitched from the Citi Field mound since his Cy Young year. That's hooked foul down the left field side.
R.A. would be worth it just for his post-game comments.
He was a breath of fresh air for this franchise at a time when not everything was going right. He was an unexpected pleasure, I guess is the best way you can put it. He was a spare part that the Mets picked up who turned into a star. Seventh pitch of the at-bat coming to Garcia, and that's off the plate, 3-2. And at the same time, the Mets timed it perfectly in trading him after his Cy Young year. And remember, their principal goal in that trade was Travis d'Arnaud.
That's right.
And the pitcher they thought they were getting, or they were hoping to get, was not Noah Syndergaard. It was Aaron Sanchez, who's turned into a pretty good pitcher in his own right, but you have to say the Mets got the better of that deal. Runner goes, and it's hit right behind Walker and into center field. A base hit for Garcia. Well, it's a double play ball with the runner not in motion, but with Walker going to cover the bag. Garcia hit it right behind Walker, and he's got his second hit.
Well, you got to cover with the second baseman with the right-handed hitter up. It cost the Mets there, and we've seen from Ron Washington sending the runner Freddie Freeman early in this game to Snicker now on 2 counts where he could put the runner in motion. He's done it. Aggressive Braves team.
This is also, if you go back a couple of years to when Kevin Seitzer took over as Braves hitting coach, this is the kind of team that they've tried to be a contact team, a hit behind the runner kind of team, much the way Kevin Seitzer approached his own offense.
That's right. I played with Kevin Seitzer, and he was that guy that could hit it behind the runner, hit it in the hole. A lot of what the Braves are doing tonight.
So first and third and nobody out, and now Tyler Flowers, who has the biggest hit of the night for the Braves. An opposite field bases clearing double in the first inning. Well, the way Dave Fried came up with the note talking about Noah Syndergaard pitching on 6 days of rest, career 2.37. So he's done okay.
You know, it's interesting. If you just go back to 2013 when the Braves were in the playoffs, you go back 2014 when they had Justin Upton and others. They're a team that hit a lot of home runs. They struck out a lot. And they've made a big transformation led by, you know, Freddie Freeman, who's a guy who, well, I want to say puts the ball in play, but he struck out 170 times last year, right?
Well, but I mean, they have the boppers in Freeman and Kemp, but it just seems as though up and down the rest of their batting order since Seitzer took over, and he started in 15,
That's right.
That they have been a team that has tried to make more contact. They've struck out the second fewest times of any team in the National League this year. They haven't always been successful, but that's been their goal. They're certainly doing it tonight. And a check swing foul. Still nothing into the Flowers. Tyler Flowers, a Georgia native, originally drafted by the Braves, but spent his career with the White Sox before returning home last year. Last year was the backup to A.J. Pierzynski, now the #1 guy among a 3-catcher setup that the Braves have. There goes the runner, and it's pulled through the hole. That's a base hit, and that'll drive in a run. Markakis is in. Garcia trying to get back to second and arrives safely in front of Cespedes' throw. 3 straight hits to start the 5th inning for the Braves. They now have a 6-1 lead, and that's going to be the end of the line for Robert Gsellman.
Well, what a night for Tyler Flowers so far. 4 RBI. Finds a hole here on the left side, much like Cespedes did in the bottom of the inning, and drives in a run.
Derek Collins is going to make a double switch with Gsellman at 100 pitches. He'll leave after 4 innings plus. Not a fun night for Robert Gsellman as he'll take his exit as the Mets make the call to the bullpen. Brought to you by Verizon. Josh Edgen coming in. We'll be right back. The Jets get an impact player with the 6th pick. Should they draft another quarterback? And what does Mike Buchanan's draft board look like? Get all your questions answered as the Jets get ready to go on the clock on Jets Nation Draft Day special. Coverage begins Thursday at 7 only on SNY. New battery, Rene Rivera into catch, Josh Edgen into pitch. And his first pitch to Dansby Swanson is flied out to shallow right field. And Granderson snags it. 1 pitch for Edgen, and that's the first out of the inning.
We see the numbers on the season for Josh. Inherits a couple of runners here. He stranded 4 out of 6 so far this season.
Last time out, against the Nationals. He was brought in to face Bryce Harper with 2 men on, and he struck Harper out. It's a nice notch in Edgin's belt as he tries to battle his way amongst the lefties in that Mets bullpen. They had 4 of them until today when Sean Gilmartin was sent down. There's Tehran up in a bunting situation and takes a strike. So Gsellman threw 100 pitches over 4 innings plus, 10 hits, 6 runs so far, 5 of them earned, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Not a pleasant day at the office for Robert, who also made a throwing error that led to an unearned run. Tehran is lined out and grounded out 0 for 2, and he gets that one right in front of the plate. Rivera goes to third with it, and they get the force for the second out. So Tehran couldn't push it far enough away from home plate, and a 2-5 fielder's choice negates the sacrifice attempt.
Well, nice job by Rene just into the game. Tehran threw the bat almost on top of the baseball. Made it a little more difficult for Rivera, but he made it look easy on the play at third.
I thought Reyes had a chance at first base to get Tehran, but I think that Jose, who's made a couple of bad throws already tonight, was a little gun shy of releasing that ball. So now 2 out and 2 on. Here's Inciarte, who's 0 for 2 in a walk. Flowers now at second, Tehran at first, and a slow ground ball. Reyes cuts it off. He'll go to first with this one just in time to get the speedy Inciarte, and that retires the side. So Edgin comes in, throws 4 pitches, gets 3 outs halfway through. 6-1 Atlanta. Very different results for Julio Tehran and Robert Gsellman. Gsellman done after 4 innings plus. And it's 6-1 Atlanta. Get to Citi Field Saturday, May 6th when the Mets play the Marlins at 7:10. The first 15,000 fans in attendance will receive a Noah Syndergaard hair hat courtesy of Majestic. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. And if you're wondering what the hair hat looks like, our hair model Russ is here to demonstrate.
Russ, you look like Joe Dirt.
Looks a little too good on you, Russ.
Very nice. Great job, Russ.
Yeah. See, last year we had Freed model the hair hat. Oh. I think Russ is definitely an upgrade.
Freed is good for reading the promos. That's where his strength is.
Oh, when we get the bad rock and roll bands?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He'll definitely get those. Reyes was robbed of a hit on a nice play by Freeman at first base, his first time up. And he takes A little bit high on the changeup. 2-0. Tehran got himself into deep trouble in the fourth with a walk and 2 singles. Mets loaded the bases with nobody out, but scratched out just a single run, which the Braves immediately got back in the top of the 5th. And now 3-0. And Tehran, for the first time tonight, a little perturbed with Corey Blazer, the home plate umpire. Rene Rivera batting 9th in the order after coming onto the double switch on deck. Then Michael Conforto here in the 5th. Here's a strike, 3-1. And that was ball 4. So for the second straight inning, Tehran walks the leadoff hitter. His walks are up this year. Last year averaged 2.0 walks per 9 innings. So far this year, not quite the same. He has walked 11 in 23 innings coming in.
Yeah, both the walks, Cabrera and Reyes, that's just concentration for a pitcher, or lack of concentration when you have a 5-run lead.
Really? We've graduated from the call to the post?
Yes, we have. The William Tell overture.
I think of that more as a fox hunt than a horse race, right?
Yes.
Release the dogs. Of course, back in the days of cigarette advertising, there was a cigarette company that used.
That's right.
William Tell overture. Rene Rivera, after a strong offensive start, has gone 0 for his last 9. Started 3 straight games with d'Arnaud on the shelf before Kevin Plawecki got his first start on Sunday night. And now Rivera spelling d'Arnaud in a double switch. And there's strike 3 called. So 3 pitches, and Tehran takes care of Rivera. His second strikeout of the night.
What's interesting about it is that, you know, Rivera is probably going to play in tomorrow afternoon's game catching Syndergaard.
By the way, there was, I guess, some miscommunication following the rainout last night, because Terry Collins in his pre-rainout press conference had said that if the game got rained out, that he was thinking about starting Syndergaard in tonight's game and then having Gsellman in the bullpen. And then the Mets put out a press release that said that Syndergaard was pitching tonight and Harvey tomorrow. And then this afternoon, the Mets put out another press release that said, no, we were mistaken. It's Gsellman tonight, Syndergaard tomorrow. And then when Terry was asked why he changed his mind, he said, I didn't change my mind.
That's right.
So somebody missed the sign somewhere.
Yes. And then when asked why did he want Gsellman to pitch tonight, he said, because I wanted to.
Well, the obvious thing that happens as a result of Gsellman starting tonight is that Harvey faces the Nationals.
That's right.
On Friday rather than facing the Braves tomorrow. Syndergaard wasn't going to face the Nationals either way, the way the schedule broke. Conforto laces one right at Markakis. Hardest hit ball of the night for the Mets, and that's the second out. Of course, when Terry was asked about that, about how it enhances his rotation against the Nats, he said, hey, we've lost 8 of 9. I need to win a game.
Yeah. Need to concentrate on the Braves.
Exactly. And that hasn't gone so well tonight. This team having a very sloppy night in the field. Gsellman with a rough outing as a starter, and the Mets have managed just 2 hits against Julio Tehran. Cabrera walked and scored the lone Met run in the 4th inning, 0 for 1 on the night. Reyes at first now with 2 down after a leadoff walk. And the curveball wraps around the plate for ball 1. Reyes runs. Flowers throw. Not in time. Second stolen base of the year for Reyes. And the 490th of his career.
Well, I'm sure that Reyes just sensed that Tehran just concentrating on the hitter with the lead and not he at first base, and he gets the stolen base.
Well, if you're going to run down by 5 runs, you better make it
every single time.
So now he's in scoring position for Cabrera with 2 out. And as Struble swings over the off-speed pitch, 1-2. Cabrera down in the count, but his numbers with runners in scoring position this year are ridiculous. 7 hits in 8 at bats. That's 875 if you want to do the math. Probably hard to sustain that over
maintain that.
Yeah. 7 for 8.
Considering what he went through last season, it's
the counterbalance.
Almost funny, right?
Was he 0 for 34 at one point?
You know, we were talking earlier about the TrackMan and the visible ball and swings and misses. The thing about Tehran is he throws you enough slow stuff that he'll surprise you with your fastball. And after you've flown out, you feel like you just missed it, but you didn't see a lot of fastballs until that ball that you were tired on.
By the way, that close-up we just showed of Tehran, did his cap get caught in the lint trap in the dryer?
Yeah, right?
What is that? I mean, somebody's got to clean that up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fine pitcher. He needs a big league cap.
Get some Scotch tape and get the lint off. Something. Get one of those rollers you get at the dry cleaners.
I do like that hat better than ones that they've had in the past, though. On the road, the white A.
Yeah, not a big fan of that. The lowercase A they had, or the tomahawk. Tehran, one of a handful of stars from the nation of Colombia.
Well, 16 years old when he was signed.
Seventh pitch of the at-bat coming to Cabrera. And that misses inside. Again, Tehran thought he might get the call. But now a full count with Cespedes waiting on deck.
You know, the catcher Flowers was able to get his glove over the inside corner. This is a reaction for Tehran. He doesn't like that call from Blazer. I want my Mapo.
That's a good one. Reyes at second with 2 down, 3-2 to Cabrera. And as Struble pops one foul, Flowers sheds the mask and takes a look, but that's out of play. Pitch number 9 of this at bat. And Cabrera gets jammed and flies one out to right center. Markakis over to get it. And that retires the side. A walk and 1 left. After 5 at Citi Field, Mets still down 6-1. Sixth inning, Josh Edgin pitching to Jace Peterson. Edgin came on, got 3 outs on 4 pitches in the 5th inning after Robert Gsellman took his exit. Peterson, his 3rd at bat, came in for Brandon Phillips. The word on Phillips, he suffered a left groin strain. Don't know whether he originally heard it on his slide or on the ground ball he fielded. Maybe a little of both. But he left in the 2nd inning. Peterson took over, had a double his first time up, and takes a strike from Edgin, 2-1. Freddie Freeman on deck, then Matt Kemp for the Braves in the 6th. Around and around and around we go. And it's continued to go around and around in the National League East. This is game number 20 of 32 consecutive games against their own division to start the season. And they say familiarity breeds contempt. Well, there could be lots of contempt around the NL East by the time this 32-game stretch is over.
Yeah, go to Washington this weekend and on to Atlanta to see their new ballpark.
And come home to play Miami. And I think the first team out of division the Mets see are the Giants on that next homestand. That's grounded down to first. And Bruce has looked very comfortable around the bag there. Makes the play, 1 out. Let's check in with the studio. Michelle Yu has a game break brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealers. Hansel Robles remembers the first one.
That's right.
Freddie Galvis also homered in that game for the Phillies. Here's Freeman. A walk and a single tonight, 1 for 2. He scored a run. That's with the shift on against Freeman, and he takes it inside. Freddie's now 27 years old. 2nd round pick by the Braves. Remember, he and Jason Hayward came up together through the Braves farm system. They were at prospect 1 and 1A. That's driven to right center field, and Freeman's got another hit. Granderson over quickly to cut it off, and Freeman will stop at first with his 2nd single of the night.
Last 2 hits have both come on breaking ball. Debut against the Mets in 2010. Southern California boy.
11 hits now for the Braves. Freeman's got his 2. And here's Matt Kemp, who singled in the first run of the night in the opening inning, 1 for 3. And there's a strike from Edgin. So Terry Collins looking to get 2 innings out of Edgin. One thing about having those 2 days off, the off day Monday rain out last night, is at least the bullpen is back fully rested. But all it takes is 1 or 2 of these 4-inning starts from your starters.
That's
and
right.
All of a sudden that wouldn't be the case anymore.
Yeah, they're definitely rebooted. Salas, he was running on fumes, wasn't he?
Everybody's had adequate rest now. Jerry's Familia is supposedly now back in the closer's role. Lifted to center field, and Conforto measures it. 2 out. Freeman fakes the go from first, but he'll hold. And that's the 2nd out. Terry was asked last night if he had a save situation. Is Familia ready to take that on? He said yes, he's my closer now. So 2 outings, neither one of which were particularly sharp, or I guess enough to convince him that Familia's ready to go.
Well, you know, the only way you're going to get him right is to pitch him, and pitch him in those kinds of situations.
He got his 3rd outing Sunday night, looked much sharper. Pitched a 1-2-3 inning with a couple of strikeouts. So now 2 out, Freeman at first, and here's Markakis, a couple of opposite field singles tonight. He's driven in a run, he's scored 2. Braves got 5 runs in the 1st inning off Robert Gsellman. That's kicked the ball around for the first 3 or 4 innings. And as generally is the case, they haven't done much against Julio Teheran. And another opposite field hit from Markakis, his 3rd of the night. So that's a dozen hits for the Braves, who have been a very disciplined offensive team tonight.
And both pitchers, the last 2 hits to the opposite field have been down, have been pretty good pitchers' pitches. Markakis has gotten hits anyway.
Terry Collins will make a pitching change with the right-hand hitters coming up. Edgin will exit. Salas will enter. 6-1 Atlanta in the 6th. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Slugger's got plenty of distractions there.
Yeah, he does.
Fernando Salas on to try and get the final out in the top of the 6th. And to face Adonis Garcia, who's 2 for 3 tonight. Salas has been pitching just about every day, but now he's had 6 days since his last outing.
He looked really sharp in his initial times out there in the mound, but the more you saw of him, he came back to the field a little bit, so the rest should do him great.
Last time out, couldn't retire a batter against the Phillies, gave up a homer and a couple of singles. And now trying to get back on the beam against Garcia, who reached on an error, single to left, single to center. 2 for 3 on the night. Edgin worked an inning and 2/3, allowed 2 hits. And Garcia fouls off the fastball, and it's 1-2. And there's no question Salas looks like he's got a little more gas in the tank tonight. This is the Braves' 15th at bat with runners in scoring position already tonight. 4 for 14. So they have had the bases littered the entire game. Runners in scoring position in every inning except one. 1-2. And Garcia got a piece of it. Time for the AARP getting to know. Interesting fact, there have only been 7 more hits than strikeouts in the major leagues so far this year. As recently as Monday, there have been more strikeouts than hits, which was the deepest into a season baseball had ever gone, with more strikeouts than hits. In the air to right, but right at Granderson, and that retires the side. 2 hits and 2 left. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Mets down 6-1. Organization is proud to contribute $2,500 to Northwell Health and the Katz Institute for Women's Health. The total contribution to date is $20,000 so far this season. Visit northwell.edu/KIWH to learn more. Road Ahead brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. Day game tomorrow. Ronnie's here.
Okay.
3 games in Washington. Ronnie's there.
I'm there.
4 games in Atlanta. Keith and Ronnie Monday, and then Ronnie disappears. And Keith is there for the next 3. All 7:30 starts in Atlanta in their new ballpark, SunTrust Park. That's first visit there. Yoenis Cespedes leads off in the home 6th and takes a strike. Cespedes has one of the Mets' 2 hits, singled through the hole into left in the 4th. He and Bruce had back-to-back hits in that 4th inning, the only 2 Tehran has given up. And a towering pop-up. Swanson waiting for it to come down. 2 hands. Keith will be proud. 1 out.
They call those big league pop-ups because even big leaguers get a little nervous. They're up that high.
So now Bruce, who's been aboard twice with a walk and a single. Do you think it's coincidence that Jay's bat slowed down for a few days as he was starting to play first base?
Well, I will say he was red hot, so I don't know if he was going to stay that hot for how much longer. But you know, there takes a little more mental gymnastics when you go to a new defensive position, and I'm not saying it has contributed to that, but it's certainly, you can see the link.
Alonso Robles up in the Mets bullpen. Bruce now 3 for 16 since taking over as the first baseman.
You know what outfielders do in between pitches? They work on their swing in the outfield. That's what they do, and you're not allowed to do that. You don't have the time to do that when you're playing an infield position.
Did you ever play in the outfield growing up, or were you always an infielder?
Always an infielder, yeah. I didn't play outfield until I got to the Cape Cod League, and I played some outfield that year because I didn't pitch in that league. And it was the last great summer I had playing ball, because it was the last summer that I played a position.
Right.
And then after that it was professional ball and every 5th day.
You know, I never played in the outfield growing up. I always wondered, how do you keep your concentration standing out there for 9 innings?
Yeah, well, in a game like this, it's very difficult, you know. And but you know, it's I guess a lot of it has to do with your personality. If your mind wanders, you're going to be that kind of person out there, and if it doesn't, it's easier for you to lock in.
I mean, as an infielder, you have to be on point every play, not only because you might have to make a play,
yeah,
but there's fear involved there too, right?
Yeah,
The ball could come at you quickly.
Yeah, the ball's hit so hard. I mean, the best outfielders, they get in that perfect ready position too. Each and every time. Nick Markakis is a good outfielder. He's always ready.
3-2 to Bruce with 1 out, and he yanks 1 foul.
I remember occasionally when I'd be at Shea Stadium and you'd be in the bullpen maybe for a half inning or so, and things weren't going swimmingly for Darryl Strawberry. You would hear some of the folks in the stands, and I thought that was the most difficult for Straw, to take some of that abuse occasionally.
Well, maybe it helped keep his attention, though. You know, instead of your mind wandering, you know, you focus on one leather lung, and maybe that keeps you focused on the game as well.
Straw would give it back to him, so.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah. 85 pitches deep for Tehran. This will be the 8th pitch of the at-bat to Bruce. And he pulls another one foul.
I think this is one of those games where, even though he's your ace, it probably is his last inning. It's been a lot of heavy lifting, even though he's only given up 1 run for Tehran. He's not been on top of his game.
Does the fact that he has 2 extra days of rest play into that at all?
Maybe, but
Bruce getting his money's worth in this turn at bat.
I mean, we've seen him dominant in this ballpark, and he's not that tonight.
Kind of like Kershaw was last night.
That's right.
Pitched great against the Giants in terms of the results, but didn't look like his overpowering self. 7 innings, 1 run, 6 hits. 10th pitch of the at bat coming to Bruce, and it's outside ball 4. So on base for the 3rd time. Jay Bruce works out a 10-pitch walk, the 4th walk given up by Tehran. That's unusual for him. Well, there's a whole lot of goose eggs on the Investors Bank Mets box score. Cespedes and Bruce with the only hits. Walker with a sac fly for the only RBI. Mets do have a progressive line score, though. 1 run, 2 hits, 3 errors. Not what you want.
No.
So here's Walker with 1 out and 1 on. And a fastball for a strike. And the Braves just now starting to get some action going in their bullpen behind Tehran, who's about to throw his 90th pitch of the night. Matt Whistler, who was just called up the other day, who has been a starting pitcher for most of his career, called up to be a part of the Braves bullpen.
In fact, he was in that rotation last year, right?
If memory serves, didn't he make his debut against the Mets?
I think he did.
Walker at the plate, Granderson on deck, and then the pitcher spot behind Curtis. And a fastball strike, 1-2. Good off-speed pitch by Tehran, and he takes care of Walker for the 2nd out. 3rd strikeout for Tehran, 2 out of the inning.
Well, he got the call on a couple of fastballs away, and then he pulls the string here on Walker.
So 2 out. Now Granderson has been up twice, and both times has popped to short. T.J. Rivera is out on deck to pinch hit if Granderson can keep the inning going. Mets have been out hit in this game 12-2. We were talking about Tehran and his higher walk rate this year. Last year he walked 4 batters once in 30 starts. This year he's already done it twice, including tonight. Hasn't cost him much. Helps when you have an early 5-0 lead, as Tehran did before he ever took the mound.
Well, Tehran, very long arms, very long legs, but a very, really good move to the plate from the stretch. He does something unique. He takes that ball out of his glove and kind of just drops it along his right leg before he delivers it to the plate.
One and 1 to Granderson, and Curtis gets jammed and fouls it back. 1-2.
Watch his feet, especially his front foot. When he lands, kind of has a recoil motion where he almost works his way backwards and to the side. He's not a big man, so he's got to put all of that 180-pound frame into it.
Two and 2 now to Curtis. Tehran looking for his 2nd win of the year. No decision against the Mets on opening day. Got clobbered his last time out against the Nats, 7 runs in 4 innings, but a very different story today, as has generally been the case when he's come this way. Fastball just off the plate in a full count. And Tehran now begging. And Corey Blazer saying no, it was outside.
See Flowers' glove, how he kind of moves it up and back out over the plate, trying to steal that strike for Tehran.
Bruce will be on his way with 3-2 and 2 out. And Granderson fouls it back. And Jay will come back.
Watch his head get it right over his front leg and his chest. And that leap at the very end shows how much he's getting from that back leg push off.
Also gets him in good fielding position. He's had some long-term bats to contend with here in the 6th. And Granderson waves at the breaking ball for strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts for Tehran. Probably will finish his night after another 6 solid innings against the Mets. 6-1 Atlanta after 6. Looks like he intends to stay in. 99 pitches over 6 innings for Tehran. Meanwhile, Fernando Salas continues on into the 7th to face Tyler Flowers, who's had the biggest night with the bat for the Braves. A double, a walk, and a single. He's driven in 4 runs, matching his career high. So Flowers' night is in bloom. Dansby Swanson on deck, and then the pitcher's spot.
What's the weather like tomorrow? We're going to see the sun.
I think there's a possibility of that.
I wasn't sure if there is any more sun here in the tri-state area.
I believe there's supposed to be some fog tomorrow as well. I mean, there's fog now, but you know, it's been kind of murky all day. I know that when we get to Washington, it's supposed to be hot for 2 days.
Oh, that's good for you and I.
Friday and Saturday, and then get cool again. It's supposed to be cool in Atlanta next week.
Yeah, that's strange.
Imagine that. Usually when we get to Atlanta, all we get is rain. Flowers strikes out for the first out in the 7th. Time now for another edition of Mets on SNY.
As the Hall of Famer Dick Williams is honored here tonight into the Padres Hall of Fame. What thing in today's game would drive you nuts?
Everything.
Well, that's honest.
Everything. They don't play the game the way we play. The game is a great game. It's a wonderful game, and I enjoy it. I yell at the TV quite often, but the fundamentals, I think, are lost. Pitch count, I have no use for pitch count. Quality start, you give up 3 runs in 6 innings. That's an earned run average of 4.5. None of those things are for the good of the game.
The great Dick Williams being as blunt could be. His interview with Kevin Burkhardt. Little dribbler off the bat of Swanson, and they'll never throw him out. Once that ball was picked up, there was no chance to get Swanson, who gets down the line well, and he's got himself an infield hit. And I know Dick Williams has a special place in your heart as a kid growing up in Massachusetts. Rookie manager, 1967, and manages the Red Sox to the impossible dream season.
Yeah, it was an amazing year, but I got a little bit of that wrath you saw of Dick Williams. In 1985, I made the All-Star team, and Dwight and I are in right field, a little nervous. My parents flew in from Boston to come to the game in Minnesota, and Dick came out to Dwight and I and said, kids, I don't usually pitch young pitchers in an All-Star game, so you guys will really be able to take the day off. I was like, really? But he was just blunt, and he was true to his word. Dwight and I did not sniff that game.
So he managed the Padres in '84, which is why he would have managed the All-Star team in '85.
They had so many starters in that game. Terry Kennedy was the starting catcher. Steve Garvey at first base. Lamar Hoyt was the pitcher. Tony Gwynn played the outfield.
Tehran gets the bunt down. Salas will go to first with it. 1-4 on the sacrifice. So it does appear as though Tehran is going to continue on in this game into the bottom of the 7th.
Well, he didn't get the job done the first time. Rivera made a nice play, but you can tell that he knows what he's doing up there. Gets to the front of the box, so that gives the chance the ball's going to stay fair more often than not, and deadens it off the end of the bat. Good job.
Jerry Blevins next man up in the Mets bullpen. But Salas will stay in to face the left-hand batting Inciarte, who's 0 for 3 in a walk tonight. Dick Williams managed 6 different teams, won over 1,500 games, including 2 World Series titles with the A's in the early 70s before he and the A's owner Charlie Finley had the blow-up, and Dick left after the 2nd World Series title, and then the A's won again the next year under Alvin Dark.
I was going to say Alvin Dark managed the 3rd championship team
in '74, and Inciarte stopped the swing 2-0.
I remember the players on that team, from Blue Moon Odom, Joe Rudy, Gene Tennis, who they called Gino Tenacci in the World Series. I'll never forget that.
Bert Campaneris.
Campy Campaneris was his nickname. Sal Bando.
That's drilled to right field. Granderson won't get to this. It one-hops the wall. Swanson in to score. Inciarte into second base with an RBI double. And the Braves tack on another run at 7-1.
Well, Inciarte hasn't hit a lot, but he's got 4 home runs and a little bit of pop here as he one-hops this ball off the wall to score Swanson and the Braves' 7th run. Can do a lot of hitting in that opening series here at Citi Field.
Well, they've got 14 hits tonight. No home runs, but they haven't needed them. And Rivera gets down to block the breaking ball from Salas, ball 1. Jace Peterson 1 for 3, doubled back in the 2nd. Didn't start the game. Came in when Brandon Phillips left with a strained left groin. People's United Bank brings you tonight's starters. 2 completely different experiences. Julio Tehran, who can throw his glove out there and have a great night against the Mets every time he wants to, it seems. And Robert Gsellman, a rough night and some shoddy defense played behind him. There's a call strike, 1-2 to Peterson. $14 hits for the Braves tonight, the most the Mets have given up in a game this year. Mets came into the night with the #1 staff ERA in the National League. You don't expect the best staff ERA to belong to a team with an 8-11 record.
Well, we had in one of our notes today, it showed that when the Mets score 4 runs or fewer, their record this year is 1-11.
Which is shocking.
Yeah, when you're a pitching team.
Right. You would think you'd win a 3-2 game every now and again. Pulled to the right side. Walker can't stop it, and that'll bring in another run. Walker trying to at least keep it on the infield to keep Inciarte from scoring, but he couldn't do it. And so it's a base hit for Peterson to make it 8-1.
As he goes back, it's almost like it hit the lip where the dirt meets the grass and just ran up his arm and off his wrist.
Well, Salas left in to face the 2 left-hand hitters, gives up hits to Inciarte and Peterson that produced 2 runs. And now Terry Collins will take the ball, and it'll be Blevins to come in to face Freddie Freeman. We'll be right back. Jerry Blevins brought in to face Freddie Freeman with the horse out of the barn. Mets down 8-1 in the 7th. Freeman's 2 for 3 and a walk tonight. And Freeman is 7 for 12 in his career against Jerry Blevins.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting? Maybe Terry's thinking that he wants to give Blevins a chance to get Freddie Freeman out, but you try to protect your left-handers against the good left-handed bats of the opposition, so they don't see him as often.
Especially when you have 5 more games against the Braves in the next week or so.
And you lose them by 7 runs.
You know, sometimes managers find themselves between a rock and a hard place in terms of trying to keep their bullpens from being overworked, but at the same time trying to keep them from being underworked. And it feels almost as though Terry, with a couple of days off, is trying to get everybody in tonight to try and make sure they're not rusty tomorrow or the next day when they're needed in a key spot.
Kind of a spring training game almost.
I mean, Blevins is in for 1 batter. He's due to lead off in the next inning, so he's just being asked to get an out.
But he's got to get that out because there's no one up in the bullpen, and Kemp's up next.
He's ahead on Freeman 0-2. Peterson at first and 2 out. And strike 3 called. So Blevins takes care of Freeman with a curveball. to end the inning. But the Braves tack on 2 in the top of the 7th. Stretch time. It's 8-1 Atlanta. To the bottom of the 7th at 99 pitches on the night. Juan Lagares will pinch hit, leading off for the Mets in the home 7th. And Juan takes a breaking ball down for ball 1. Lagares got a spate of playing time with Cespedes out of the lineup, but failed to really take advantage. Just 2 for 18 to start the year. Jose Reyes on deck, then Rene Rivera for the Mets in the bottom of the 7th. Mets have had just 2 hits against Tehran tonight. They both came in the 4th. And a slow ground ball for Garcia. And the running throw gets by Freeman, and Lagares is safe. So the Mets have a leadoff base runner.
The overhand throw by Garcia took him too long to get rid of it. And you know what it looked like there? Freeman did not want to put his hand in there and get it crunched by Lagares running across. So he gave it a little half try in there and wasn't able to come up with the play.
They will be kind enough to give Lagares a hit on that play. Only the 3rd Met hit of the night. Now Reyes, who's 0 for 1, walked and stole a base in the 5th. And he clocks one deep down the right field side, but that'll hook and go foul.
Despite only 3 hits given up, it's been kind of heavy lifting for Tehran, who's been a little off tonight, but still battles like he always does.
Well, for a guy who has been plagued by such a lack of run support, anytime he's in a position like he got in tonight, where he got an at bat before he took the mound,
right?
Got to run with that.
Maybe he's just not used to pitching with this many runs.
Maybe, or maybe it's the lint. Toward the hole. Peterson can't get to it. Lagares will go first to third, and the Mets have runners at the corners and nobody out. So a couple of soft hits for the Mets to start this 7th inning. And for Reyes, he'll take a hit any way he can find one.
No, just perfectly placed here. Peterson got a glove on it, but wasn't able to secure it. It's there in time, but his glove was half closed.
So the Mets trying to fashion something here in the 7th. Rene Rivera up for the 2nd time. Came out on a double switch. Took a call 3rd strike in the 5th. Lagares at 3rd. Reyes at 1st. And Rivera flies one out to right. That'll get a run in. Back goes Markakis to get it. Lagares tags and scores. A sacrifice fly by Rene Rivera cuts the Braves lead to 8-2. Both the Met runs tonight have come home on sacrifice flies. Walker in the 4th and now Rivera. And that's going to be all for Julio Teheran with the left-hand hitter Conforto coming up. Braves will bring the former Met Eric O'Flaherty into the game. So Teheran done after 106 pitches over 6 1/3. And the Braves will go to the bullpen. 8-2 Atlanta. We'll be right back to Citi Field. .32-year-old Eric O'Flaherty comes on for the Braves.
It was really a struggle for him the first time the Braves came here to Citi Field, but he's pitched much better lately.
Comes in to face Michael Conforto, who's had 3 at-bats this year against left-handers, looking for his first hit. He's gone 0 for 3 tonight. Hit the ball very hard his last time up, lined out to right field against Teheran, who was out after 6 1/3, having allowed 2 runs and 4 hits, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and a 6-run lead. O'Flaherty, who pitched for the Mets 2 years ago. Fly ball out to left center. Cutting across is Kemp to get it. And that's the 2nd out. So Conforto's retired. Reyes remains at first with 2 away, and there's Dribble Cabrera coming up.
Flaherty was part of that bullpen from 2011 to 2014 with the Braves. It was he and left-hander Johnny Venters setting up Craig Kimbrell, is about as good as there was in baseball.
It was an automatic lead after 6, game over kind of bullpen. But Venters, multiple Tommy John surgeries, Kimbrel traded away. O'Flaherty's effectiveness waned, but now he's back for another round with the Braves after going to Oakland and to the Mets. Cabrera takes a strike. He was completely ineffective as a Met 2 years ago. Got in 16 games, pitched to a 13.5 ERA before the Mets just stopped using him. Hansel Robles up in the Mets bullpen, ready to pitch the 8th inning. Mets have a run home here in the 7th. And 0-2 to Cabrera. Day game tomorrow, the final game of this rain-shortened series. Noah Syndergaard against R.A. Dickey, two guys who were traded for each other after the 2012 season. Our coverage begins tomorrow at 12:30 right here on SNY. Then the Mets begin their road trip in Washington on Friday night, with Matt Harvey opening that series for the Mets. I have not seen the Nats rotation for that series, but Strasburg is going to slot in there somewhere after coming back from paternity leave after the birth of his second child this week. I guess we'll see Scherzer Friday night, right? Because he went Sunday and they didn't have an off day. And Cabrera down on strikes to end the inning. So O'Flaherty comes in and gets 2 outs. Mets scratch out a run in the 7th, but no more. 8-2 Atlanta going to the 8th. Slow motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. We're going to the 8th inning at Citi Field. Mets have been behind right from the jump tonight. Terry Collins has been using most of his relievers who've had adequate rest, and so Hansel Robles will get some time here in the 8th.
Yeah, it's like he's just going right through the bullpen.
Robles worked Saturday night, worked 2 perfect innings against the Nationals. Well, with the Mets in a rough stretch right now and a lopsided game tonight, it is a wonderful thing that our friends from Topps have provided us with thousands upon thousands of baseball cards. And we are going to dip into the baseball cards tonight.
Nice.
They look very pristine.
Well, this row over here is some of the older cards, but over here, these are the newbies.
So where should we go?
Oh, I'm going old time all the time. Okay, here we go. I'm going in here.
Well, if you're going to go old, I'll have to go newer.
Okay.
How about that?
First card I pull out, Steve Stone, Cy Young Award winner in a Cubbies uniform. Had the great curveball. It was the year in Baltimore. He won 25 games or so.
Won the Cy Young and basically said that he sacrificed his elbow to win the Cy Young. That he threw so many curveballs, he blew out his elbow, and he was never the same again.
That's right.
But he decided to have the one great year instead of the 10 mediocre years. That's drilled into left field, a base hit for Kemp. And the Braves just continue to hit. What else you got there?
Well, I got, you know, a story about this. This is Preston Gomez, who was the manager of the San Diego Padres. Didn't he have a controversial decision he had to make?
He had a young pitcher named Clay Kirby.
Okay.
This was 1969, first year of the franchise. And the Padres were playing the Mets, and Kirby was working on a no-hitter through 8, but was trailing 1-0. And Preston Gomez took him out for a pinch hitter because he wanted to win the game. And he got a lot of flack for that because, back in those days, you didn't take a pitcher out if he was pitching a no-hitter, particularly if, you were in a situation where the team was so bad. The best thing that could have happened to the Padres would have been that they would have had no hitter. And as it turns out, they still haven't had one.
That's right. They finally got their cycle, but they haven't had a no-hitter yet. Back of those baseball cards are fantastic.
Well, the artwork is great. Let's see what I got here. I've got Lenny DiNardo.
Lenny DiNardo?
Left-hander who, yeah.
Don't know him.
Fred Tolliver.
Don't know him either.
Oh, but see, I got good ones here.
Okay.
Here we go, back to back. I got Timmy Tuffle.
The Tuffle Shuffle.
Tuffle Shuffle. Well, it's more of a sweep than a shuffle in this particular shot. And then I've got Davy Johnson.
Wow.
No, you can't. And in fact, I got doubles of Davy. I've got the Davy double.
Davy would
ding, 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 ding,
certainly believe in that. He thinks he's that good. You need 2 of him. Absolutely.
That's great.
I've got a Dale Long card. You remember Dale Long? Because Don Mattingly ended up passing him, or at least tying him, I think, to get in the record books of home runs in consecutive games.
Yeah, I think Long had the record and Mattingly tied it. But the other thing, as Markakis walks, Dale Long was a left-handed catcher. One of the very few.
That's right.
In fact, he might have been the first. He was used for a handful of games.
Yeah,
as a left-hand throwing catcher. I don't understand. Could you explain to me why lefties can't catch?
Well, what originally happened is you wouldn't teach a young person who's left-handed to catch because most of the hitters when you're younger are right-handed. Right. But that changes once you get to the major leagues. There's so many left-handed hitters that being lefty or righty doesn't really matter.
Here's Adonis Garcia. I mean, there have been others. Mike Squires, Benny DiStefano.
That's right.
Guys who are left-handed who have been allowed to catch a few games here and there, but there's never been a regular left-handed catcher in the major leagues. Meanwhile, Robles continues to struggle. Oh, I got a good relief pitcher here.
Okay.
Dwayne Ward.
Oh, he was nasty.
Right?
Nasty. He had a bowling ball sinker and slider, and he was just unhittable. He was one of the setup guys in front of Tom Henke, but championship years.
Didn't Ward replace Henke?
He did.
Closer?
He did.
In Toronto when they were great in the 90s?
I think he replaced him the second championship that they won, because they won, 92 and 93.
Right.
But he was a fantastic pitcher.
He was, back in an era where people didn't strike out quite as much. That's lined and caught by Cabrera. Not in time for the double play, though. And so Garcia's retired for the first out.
Only tough thing about doing these baseball cards is I'm really not paying attention to scoring this game. But nice play there by Cabrera, who tried with the little overhand shovel pass to get the runner at second base. I got one here for you, Gary.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this was his full name. Wallace Wade Moon.
Wally Moon.
Who hit all of those home runs when they moved to what was
the LA Coliseum.
LA Coliseum, right?
Right, because it was a football stadium, so they made right field very deep. It was like 390 down the right field line, but about 250 down the left field line because it was oval. So they put up a huge screen in left field, and Wally Moon would specialize in little pop-ups over the screen. They called it moonshot.
Really? I love the back of this baseball card for Wally Moon. It has him singing "No More Teachers, No More Books." It says that he was the 1954 NL Rookie of the Year, and that he also was a really smart base runner who could steal bases. So everything's so positive in the day.
I love the cartoons. That's the best part.
Right?
I got one for you. Cliff Johnson.
Oh, gee.
Cliff Johnson.
Was it he and Goose Gossage got into a fight in the shower?
I think he broke Gossage's thumb, if I recall correctly, and I think that his nickname was Heathcliff. he got released, I think, right after that, after his fight with Gossage, because Gossage was such a huge part of that Yankee team.
Yeah, you don't mess with the closer, right?
But no, Cliff Johnson could hit home runs though. I got Tom Niedenfuer.
Okay.
Robles picks up his first strikeout.
Known to have the largest head ever to be on a major league player.
Now, wait a second. You got to focus on that. Is that a bigger head than Bruce Bochy?
Oh, it was huge.
How can that be?
It was huge. It was a huge dome. Absolutely. 8 1/4 maybe.
Well, Bochy's an 8, right? Jay Horwitz is an 8 1/2.
Oh, it is.
He never played. So.
I got Milt Pappas when he was in a Braves uniform. Of course, that famous trade.
Just passed away recently.
That's right.
And Pappas, of course, was traded for Frank Robinson. But Milt Pappas also, when he was with the Cubs, he had that perfect game broken up by a bad call.
That's right.
With 2 out in the 9th. Is it Bruce Fremming?
Bruce Fremming, yes, exactly. Oh, this is interesting. So I've got the Bob Oliver card when he played for the California Angels. His son, of course, pitched for the Mets, Darren Oliver.
Oh, I got one. I think Keith is watching, right?
Yep.
Okay, Keith, close your eyes. Dave Anderson.
That's right. He broke Keith's kneecap,
Yes,
didn't he, with a slide?
Yes, he did. Dave Anderson with the Dodgers broke Keith's kneecap. And, sorry, Keith.
I don't know if you remember this name, Gary. Roger Moret.
With the Red Sox.
Yeah, Red Sox, left-handed pitcher. Ended up having some health issues that took him out of the game, but he was one of those tall, skinny pitchers that could throw 100 miles an hour. Didn't always know where it was going, but he could throw hard.
Well, I got a nice Gold Glover for you here. Omar Vizquel.
Oh.
Now, tell me, was there ever a better, more fascinating double play combination to watch than Omar Vizquel and Robbie Alomar in their prime with the Indians?
In their prime, you couldn't get a base hit up the middle. They were just unbelievable. The athleticism and the way they could contort their body to make plays was just well, it wasn't that breathtaking if you were playing them, but it had to be for Indians fans.
And Omar played till he was about 44 years old. Now,
that's right.
If Ozzie Smith is in the Hall of Fame, to my mind,
yeah,
Omar Vizquel has to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, absolutely. He was a difference maker on the defensive side, and like Ozzie Smith, made himself into a tough out as a hitter. We were talking about no neck on Niedenfuer. I got Walt Williams.
No.
Yes.
The no neck.
Yes, Walt No Neck Williams, and you can see it in this picture.
He really did not have a neck.
He did. There he is.
With the White Sox, right?
Yeah, Walt Williams with the White Sox. He was a pretty cool player. Shortish player with a lot of power.
I got some good ones here. I got Paul Konerko, Gary Sheffield. Okay, I'm going through all the.
Konerko from Massachusetts, like it.
Todd Helton.
Unbelievable career.
I got Ichiro.
Wow.
Strike 3 called, and Swanson is struck out, so Robles works around trouble in the 8th inning. Bobby Cox, Cliff Lee,
Bubba
Frank
Phillips,
Thomas,
no idea.
Rafael Palmeiro, Torrey Hunter,
Vito Valentinetti, don't know him.
Who?
Joe Cunningham, never heard of him.
Randy Johnson.
Santa Claus, Billy Claus, don't know who he is.
Brian Roberts. New York sports writers gave insight on the Jets and Giants draft day strategy, plus discussion about how Noah Syndergaard and R.A. Dickey fare in the series finale tomorrow on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5, only on SNY. Matt Whistler, a starter for the Braves the last 2 years, makes his season debut out of the bullpen.
45 starts in the last couple of years. Remember, it was Whistler and guys like Aaron Blair that were in the rotation last year, and the Braves weren't sure if they were going to be ready to go this season, so that's why they went out and acquired R.A. Dickey and Bartolo Colon.
And Jaime Garcia.
Jaime Garcia.
All those guys are placeholders for the young starters who are bubbling up through the Braves system. Cespedes 1 for 3 tonight. Takes a big hack and fouls it off. Not just the pitchers, but also guys like Phillips and Kemp. Markakis, they signed to a 4-year deal. He's in year 3 now. But Phillips will be a free agent at the end of the year. Actually, Kemp's got 2 more years after this as well. That big contract he signed with the Dodgers. Breaking ball in for a strike.
Whistler was a starting pitcher in AAA Gwinnett before being recalled.
Jay Bruce on deck, then Neil Walker for the Mets in the 8th. Mets have been out hit 16-4 tonight, in danger of losing their 9th in the last 10 games. And Cespedes pops one up. Peterson comes over to get it. 1 out. Coming up tonight, Geico Sports Night after the post game. The draft coming up tomorrow. Rangers getting set for their 2nd round series with Ottawa, and all the Major League Baseball news tonight on Geico Sports Night after the post game. I don't think we've shown it tonight. Last night, the Chris Coghlan dive over Yadier Molina was one of the greatest things I've seen in a long time.
Coghlan, who's now with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Bruce has been on base 3 times in a row and takes a hack at a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. I don't recall Whistler throwing that hard as a starter.
No, and it's going to be interesting that he might find a role in this bullpen. Young kid, a lot of promise.
Whistler came over from San Diego in the Justin Upton deal. And pulls the string and gets ahead on Bruce, 1-2. Last year made 26 starts, 7-13 with a 5 ERA. Not a lot of strikeouts, just 6.6 strikeouts per 9.
He pitched to a 5 ERA in spring training this year, and that's why he didn't make the ball club.
Still just 24 years old. And Bruce grounds one past Peterson into right field, and Bruce is on base for the 4th straight time. 2 walks and now his 2nd hit. This is the Coghlan play from last night of the Toronto-St. Louis game. This is just unbelievable. I mean, who has the presence of mind to do that?
Well, he said when he was running in that his first thought was he's going to have to run over Yadier, who was right in the baseline, but then Yadier kind of dipped to catch the ball, and that's when he decided to make like Superman.
And he said that had his leg not grazed the shoulder of Yadi as he went over the top, he probably wouldn't have stuck the landing. But his legs got slowed down just enough by making some contact with Molina that he was able to come down perfectly on home plate.
So we know he's tough as nails. He's the guy that ended up, remember, hurting his knee by putting a pie in someone's face when he was in Miami at the Rookie of the Year.
Right. By the way, they got rained out tonight, Toronto and St. Louis. So Yadi, after that, he's at the St. Louis Blues game tonight.
Oh,
yeah. Big hockey fan. I bet you didn't know that.
They did not.
Bruce at first and 1 out. 1-1 to Walker, who drove in the first Met run with a sacrifice fly, otherwise 0 for 2. Julio Teheran went 6 1/3, allowed 2 runs, 4 hits, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Not his A effort against the Mets, but not bad. And in line for his 2nd win of the year. Braves trying to snap a 6-game losing streak. Both these teams have hit hard times the last week or so. Two coming, and Walker skies one out to left center. Inciarte comes over to get it, and that's the 2nd out. So 2 down, and Curtis Granderson coming up. Curtis has gone 0 for 3 tonight. A couple of pop-ups and a strikeout. So I've been asked to balance out the 17 ledger for the night.
Okay.
We showed the Dave Anderson card, which, you know,
it's in the negative ledger.
Brought back unhappy memories for our friend Keith. So I should also note that on this date, April 26th, 1988, Keith Hernandez drove in his 1,000th career run.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. You've had the bad and the good, Keith. It's the best we can do.
I think he wants too good to go with the bad.
He had 2 home runs and 7 RBIs in that game, by the way.
Huge.
Granderson gets a hold of one to center field, chasing Inciarte back, but he's got room. And that retires the side. A hit and 1 left in the bottom of the 8th. On to go to the 9th at Citi Field with the Braves up 8-2. We're in the 9th inning. Matt Whistler will stay in to bat for himself and try and finish off this game for Atlanta. 11 hits and 78 career at bats, and he takes a strike from Hansel Robles, and it's 1-1. Robles gave up a single and a walk in the 8th inning, but was able to get through it with a couple of strikeouts, and he stays on for the 9th. And there's a strike, 1 and 2. Ender Inciarte on deck, and then Jace Peterson for the Braves in the ninth. Slapped down to first, and Bruce can't handle the short hop. Walker recovers and safe at first. Now another Met miscue. It's been a night full of those. Bruce trying for the do or die sweep of the short hop.
The Mets might take another look at this, but just glances off the glove of Bruce. Walker tried to make the play. I thought it was a little closer than the safe call. I thought he might have been out at first. Let's see, Robles kind of nonchalanted it, so.
Mets are challenging the call.
Yeah,
he's out.
He's out. Yeah.
That's a good call, Ronnie.
Yeah.
That's tough because he's looking for the ball and feeling for the bag with his foot.
And I will say it's hard for the umpire because Robles didn't look like his heart was in it when he was covering, so he didn't really sell the play either.
Well, the Braves won a challenge earlier tonight in what was at the time, far more meaningful situation. They got their second run of the game on what was originally an out call at home plate that got overturned. Here, a 6-run game in the ninth inning, and we'll get a very quick call of an out. So overturn the call. It becomes a 3-4-1 putout for the first out.
Jay gets an assist for that.
Play under review brought to you by Mazda Driving Matters. Well, that's up to the official scorer.
Yes.
And the official scorer says no, do not give an assist to Bruce. It is a 4-1, not a 3-4-1.
Okay.
It all depends. If the fielder redirects it in a productive way, whether he intended to or not, they'll give an assist.
Okay.
But if he makes the play harder with his deflection, then no.
Well, that definitely was part of that.
So that's the first out. Now Ender Inciarte, who doubled in a run in the 7th. He's also walked and scored, so he's driven in 1. He's scored 2, gone 1 for 4 on the night. And takes a strike. In the bottom of the ninth, the Mets will have the pitcher spot. Reyes and Rene Rivera due up. Maybe Matt Reynolds will get his first at bat of the season, just called up today. We talked about it at the time, but it probably bears repeating. This was a game where the Mets starting pitcher went short, and where if you had a long man in your bullpen, this would have been the night to use him. That's pulled down to first, and Bruce handles it. But the Mets made the roster move before the game and sent Sean Gilmartin down and brought Matt Reynolds back up. Well, this was the first inning when the Braves scored 5 runs, and Matt Kemp drove in the first run with a base hit. Markakis goes the other way and drives in a run. This was the play at the plate that was originally called out, but was overturned. Freddie Freeman ruled safe, and then with the bases loaded, Tyler Flowers goes the other way. So opposite field hits proved to be Robert Gsellman's undoing. Not pictured there, all the shoddy defense the Mets played behind him, including Gsellman's own error.
And for 2 games in a row now, the Mets on Sunday night trailing by 4 in the first inning, 5 in this game.
Not what you expect for a team that's built around its starting pitching. Jace Peterson did not start this game, but is 2 for 4, a single and a double. Replaced Brandon Phillips when he left with a strained groin in the second inning.
Well, tomorrow is one of those days that your ace has to go out there and pitch like an ace.
Well, Syndergaard's last start was an odd one because he struck out 10 batters in 7 innings, didn't walk anybody, but he had 2 bad innings, undone in part by some bad defense behind him, but was unable to stem the tide and wound up giving up 5 runs in 7 innings.
Yeah, in fact, struck out the side in the first, so it looked like it was going to be a big day. That ball catches Rene Rivera on off the foul tip. You know, the one thing about that game, though, which was odd for me, is that that's the first time we saw Syndergaard hit pretty hard. There were some well-hit balls, which you don't see many people centering the ball off Noah.
Well, you remember that was the first game that Bruce played at first base, and there was that weird play where Syndergaard hesitated covering first base, and it seemed like that discombobulated him, and then they started whacking the ball around the yard against him.
Sometimes you need that one play to get you out of an inning, and it didn't happen that day.
Two and two to Peterson, and he struck him out with a changeup. So Robles with his third strikeout in relief. He's retired 6 in a row. That sends us to the bottom of the ninth. Mets down 8-2. Watch every SNY Mets game on the go on any device all season long with live streaming presented by Verizon. Just download the NBC Sports app or visit SNY.TV, your new home for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Last of the ninth, TJ Rivera will pinch hit for the Mets, leading off against Matt Whistler. Unless the Mets have a big rally in them in this ninth inning, they'll lose their 5th in a row, 9 of their last 10, and they would fall to 8-12 on the year. And I guess my question, Ronnie, is at what point does a slow start become an area of concern?
Well, you know, you're a team that hits home runs. April and the weather, the way it's been, sometimes prohibits that kind of play. I think if you start to see the pitching unravel in any way, especially the starting pitching, then there'd be cause for concern. But that certainly has not happened. And, you know, you can't win a division in April, but you certainly can put yourself behind the 8 ball if you don't watch out.
Well, that was going to be the next question, because, you know, the Nationals are up 5-0 in Colorado in the 5th. And if the Mets lose tonight and the Nats win, the Nats would be 6.5 in front of the Mets. Now, just for reference, the Mets never fell 6.5 games back last year till the middle of July. Rivera gets a hold of one to left. Kemp going back, and he'll have room. 1 out. So, you know, here we are on the 26th of April, and the Mets could be that far behind. Now, they've got 3 games against the Nats coming up this weekend, and that certainly gives them a chance to, you know, reel them in a little bit. But I guess the question is it a time where, if you're Terry Collins, Sandy Alderson, you're thinking about what can we do to make things better, or you just stay the course and wait for this team to play the way they should?
Well, I think they're going to certainly probably the latter, stay the course for the most part. I think the fine line for an organization is that you want your manager and front office not to panic, but you want your players to panic just enough, you know, in the sense of have a sense of urgency. That you know what, after this game tonight, you go and look in the a mirror and you say, you know, we all stunk tonight. This is a bad loss. We didn't field it. We didn't pitch it. We didn't hit it. But you have your best pitcher on the mound tomorrow and a chance to split the series and give you some positive feelings going into Washington.
Yeah, because Terry Collins' mantra, and he's right, is that in most of these games that the Mets have lost, as Reyes slices one to third and Garcia throws him out for the second out, the Mets have been a bloop and a blast away.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case tonight. They fielded miserably over the first few innings of the game. Gsellman didn't pitch well. They've gotten an early hole and never had a chance in this game.
You know, last year they had, what, 218 home runs, most for a Mets team ever. You know, the one thing you got to protect against, Gary, what if those home runs don't come in the bushels that you expect them to? You're going to have to try to find a couple of different ways to try to score. We have not seen that in the first 20 games.
That's down to their final out. Rene Rivera drove in one of the Met runs tonight with a sac fly. And Rene whacks one to short. Easy hop for Swanson. And that'll do it. Mets kick it around. Gsellman gets hit for 5 runs in the first inning, and the Mets rack up only 5 hits as Julio Teheran shuts them down again. And the Braves snap a 6-game losing streak and hand the Mets their 5th straight loss, 9 of 10, as Atlanta wins 8-2.
Well, Gsellman seems out of sorts from pitch 1. I think the Braves did a great job of having a plan of hitting the ball the other way and sticking to it. Tyler Flowers had a big day for the Braves with tying career high 4 RBI. And for the Mets, not a lot of offense, couple sac flies, and that's about it.
Game summary tonight presented by StubHub. You see Gsellman's line, 6 runs and 10 hits over 4 innings. He suffers his 2nd loss, while Julio Teheran improves to 8-3 lifetime against the Mets, going 6 1/3 for the victory. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Toyota. Tested, trusted, Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. By Citi, proud partner of the New York Mets. By Hyundai, there's no better time to buy a new Hyundai than now. See your local Hyundai dealer or visit buyhyundai.com. By Empire City Casino, real people, real money, real deal. You could be the next big winner. And by Verizon, the largest, most reliable 4G LTE network in America. Final score tonight, the Braves 8 and the Mets 2. Final game of this series tomorrow afternoon. Noah Syndergaard against R.A. Dickey. Our coverage begins tomorrow at 12:30 right here on SNY. Now for Ron Darling, Steve Gelbs, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen at Citi Field. Time for WB Mason postgame live. Let's join Gary Apple and Nelson Figueroa in the studio, guys.